epic poet Ferdowsi and changed the name of the street of Omar Khayyam, who was the agnostic poem that the clerics hate. And there, the people stood up. They would not allow that to happen. And the government had to retreat and even praised Ferdowsi, although they hated him. And Ferdowsi, my father used to tell me, this country we live in is very ancient and it has been invaded many times. But what makes us call ourselves Iranians, what gives continuity to us, is our poetry. And it goes back at least to Ferdowsi, our epic poet, and 1,000 years ago. So Iranian people have poetry in their blood. First of all, it connects us to the rest of the world. In Iran, we were not allowed to be connected to Western democracies. And literature took them to those forbidden spaces. Second of all, I felt so good that the regime could bring down the statue of a king, but they could not bring down the statue of a poet. That shows the poet's strength.
Thank you for listening to the interview. For more compelling conversations, search for the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts. You'll find episodes from Syria's only female cabinet minister Hind Kabawat, free speech campaigner Maria Ressa, Indian author Twinkle Khanna, and many others. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was the interview.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we're live downtown on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app, and on YouTube. It's 3 minutes to 6 o'clock. If you're a regular, you know the morning show's on with you till 8:37, and if you can stick around, we've got a really good show coming up. So we'll look at the forecast first. It's going to be really nice today once again. Yesterday, even more melting in Winnipeg. I think a lot of us were like, 0? Really? Wow. Today, it is looking like we are going to get a little bit of cloud cover up in Thompson for today. A cloudy day, 30% chance of light snow this morning and early afternoon. You're going to be right around -2. In Brandon, over in Brandon today, you have a sunny day ahead, a high of 1 degree. So if you liked yesterday, you'll love today. And today in Winnipeg, once again, we're right around -1 and we're going to have sunshine. So melting. We'll see whether that fog's going to stay away, and it could be a bit icy. Let's say good morning to the team. Look at the control room. It's full of people. There is Mr. Darren Marash. He is our producer of our YouTube stream, so if you're watching us, give him a wave. Good morning, Abby Adeyemi, our senior tech on the show. Abby also will be on air covering the weather through the show. And there's Jenica Sewell, also shadowing Abby today. Corey Funk is your show director. He'll be in with the morning commute. Now, as we play musical chairs, you might be surprised to hear our weather specialist doing the news, but here he is. Riley Lachuk is in with our headlines. Hi, Riley.
Good morning. Opponents of Winnipeg's proposed protest buffer zone bylaw say they are calling the measure from the city an attack on free expression. The bylaw would create 100-meter buffer zones around schools, places of worship, and other sites, restricting what the city calls nuisance protests. Supporters, including Councillor Evan Duncan, say the intent is to prevent intimidation. And the Manitoba government and United Way are funding 6 new liaison positions to help families at risk of losing their children to CFS. Those workers will help caregivers access supports and services in the community. More news after World Reports.
All right, Riley. Be nice to spend the morning with you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Okay, Riley in with us, of course, filling in for Heather Wells today. Well, on the show this morning, we will talk to a Winnipegger who is in Italy to watch the games. What's it like just as a spectator? What's all the fun as things are ramping up here? We're a weekend, so we'll find out about that. Also, in the first hour of the program, we're going to talk more about the annual Munich Security Conference. It does begin today. Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, will not be there because he's going to be in Tumbler Ridge. But we will hear more about what is on the agenda in these trying times. Right now, almost 6.
on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey in for Tom Power. Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll first made waves with their cult web series turned TV show, Nirvana, the Band, the Show.
Hold on, I thought didn't you just say we're not switching the plan no matter what?
And 15 years later, they're taking it to the big screen. They're here to talk about their new film, Nirvana, the Band, the Show, the Movie.
Q, this morning at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott.
I feel like I'm living in a nightmare right now that I just can't wake up from.
David Gabala describes the pain of the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting. His 12-year-old daughter, Maya, was seriously injured. She remains in hospital fighting for her life.
To be honest, I don't know how to feel. Seeing your child like that in the hospital bed, like, I'm lost for words on it.
Gabala says he remains hopeful that Maya will recover, but another father is grieving the death of his son. The CBC's Tanya Fletcher has more.
He was such a great boy, such a good boy.
Abel Mwanza describes his 12-year-old son, Abel Mwanza Jr., one of the victims who died at Tumbler Ridge Secondary.
Everybody loves him, and everybody knew him in town. So he always putting up a smile, always, and it became part of him, and it was so genuine.
His son was born in Zambia, and the family moved to Canada 3 years ago. Paul Landrecht works at a local grocery store and knew Abel.
He was so polite and so good and well-spoken, and for a 12-year-old child, I thought, man, he is so mature and so intelligent. What a brilliant child.
The other students killed at the school were 12-year-olds Kylie Smith, Zoe Benoit, and Tikaria Lampert, as well as 13-year-old Ezekiel Schofield and an educator, 39-year-old Shanda Avigana Durand. Discovered inside the family home were the shooter's stepbrother, 11-year-old Emmett Jacobs, and mother, 39-year-old Jennifer Strang.
I know that all of us are grieving for these families.
Premier David Eby speaking in Victoria on Thursday after returning from Tumbler Ridge.
The shock is starting to wear off in the community, and the emotions are really starting to show up for people.
The two people airlifted to hospital are still recovering from serious injuries. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
In other news, Ontario is ending a 7-year tuition freeze on public colleges and universities. Starting this fall, schools can raise fees by 2% a year, and that has some students worried about their education. Philip Lishanuk reports.
I don't think it's justifiable.
University of Toronto student Caitlin Chen worries some of her classmates won't be able to afford to stay in school.
Tuition is a really big hurdle that they have to get over.
In 2019, Ontario's progressive Conservative government capped tuitions for domestic students. Many universities and colleges turned to international students who paid considerably more to help balance their books. Minister of Colleges and Universities Nolan Quinn blamed the federal Liberals for ending that business model.
Unilateral changes, whether it's on the OSAP side or on the international student population, it has created pressure on the system.
Colleges and universities already slashed programs and laid off staff, but will now be able to raise tuition fees by up to 2% per year for the next 3 years. Quinn says that will cost students as much as $170 more a year. Ontario's Student Assistance Program will also offer fewer grants, making 75% of funding available as loans instead. Provincial Liberal leader John Fraser says the Ontario government created the problem, not the federal Liberals.
They starved colleges. They allowed colleges to rely on foreign students.
Ontario says tuition increases starting this fall will mean $6.4 billion more for post-secondary institutions. Philip Lishanuk, CBC News, Toronto.
The Bangladesh Nationalist Party wins a sweeping victory in the country's national election. It's the big reversal for the party. It boycotted the last vote to protest the rule of longtime leader Sheikh Hasina. Salima Shivji has the story.
A celebration, but a subdued one outside the office of the man who's on track to become Bangladesh's next prime minister, Tariq Rahman. Instead of loud victory rallies, the 60-year-old leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party asked his supporters to go to the mosque and pray for peace and stability for their country.
Of course, he's the greatest leader we could ever ask for.
It's the biggest victory
I'm the great friend of Mr. Tariq Zia.
Rahman, who only recently returned to Bangladesh after years in self-imposed exile in London, secured a landslide victory, a more than two-thirds majority in the country's first election after a Gen Z uprising ousted autocratic leader Sheikh Hasina in July 2024. The BNP's main opponent, Muslim party Jamaat-e-Islami, also did historically well after being banned under Hasina's rule. It's set to form a strong opposition, but the party is complaining about the vote counting process, alleging inconsistencies.
The result is good for democracy in Bangladesh.
Says Thomas Keane, senior consultant on Bangladesh for crisis group think tank. But there will be challenges for Rahman, who's never held office before.
The key challenge is managing the kind of macroeconomic stability, but making sure that the economy is delivering on the aspirations of Bangladeshis.
27-year-old Amira Hamid talked of the Bangladesh she wants as she cast a ballot for the first time ever.
I think a Bangladesh of equality, a Bangladesh where women have rights, a Bangladesh where every voice is heard.
The BNP hopes to form government by Sunday. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Dhaka.
The world's largest aircraft carrier is heading to the Middle East. The USS Gerald R. Ford joins another carrier already in the region. It's part of President Donald Trump's efforts to force Iran into a nuclear deal. He warns that failure to reach an agreement will be, quote, very traumatic for Tehran. The Ford was recently used in the Caribbean for the raid that captured former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The world's most influential security summit kicks off today under a cloud of uncertainty. The Munich Security Conference opens as transatlantic ties face unprecedented strains over trade and the future of Ukraine. Abhi Kugadasan reports.
Unilateral action, power politics, transactional pacts. This year's Munich Security Conference calls it wrecking ball politics, naming the United States as an unreliable ally. Natalie Tocci is a professor at Johns Hopkins School of International Advanced Studies in Italy. She says catastrophe could be useful, though, because when Trump demanded Greenland only a few weeks ago, Europeans did not bend.
The risk in Europe is that when the temperature slightly lowers, the risk is always that of falling back into complacency.
While the future of European strategic autonomy is being discussed over the next couple of days, the future of Ukraine will feature heavily.
People are suffering. It's the coldest time of year. It's unimaginable, the suffering.
Before he boarded his plane to Munich, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he expects to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. When Rubio addresses heads of state and other officials on Saturday, allies will be hoping his remarks focus on challenges like ending Russia's war on Ukraine with a just peace. A speech that would be in sharp contrast to the one they heard last year from Vice President J.D. Vance, who blamed immigration for the continent's woes, brushing off Russia and China as primary threats.
The old world is gone, frankly.
Europe, Canada, and like-minded nations know it. This weekend in southern Germany, it'll become clearer if they're ready to work together and reshape it. Abhi Kugadasan for CBC News, Munich.
And finally, EV sales are sputtering, but automakers insist the future is still electric. With the Toronto International Auto Show starting this morning, Nisha Patel gets a preview of what could recharge the market.
We see EV as the future of the business, but we need to make
At the Toronto International Auto Show, car makers are hoping to spark fresh interest in EVs. Stellantis Canada CEO Trevor Longley says Ottawa's consumer rebates might help. Starting next week, Canadians could get up to $5,000 to buy or lease battery-powered electric vehicles and as much as $2,500 for a plug-in hybrid.
And so we've already seen an increase in demand, especially on that Fiat 500e in Quebec, just with the word getting out that this is coming. And so interest in the products is high.
The EV market is in desperate need of a boost. Sales of new electric vehicles fell almost 40% in the third quarter of last year compared to the year before. Auto analyst J.D. Nye says price is a big barrier for consumers. Canadians paid an average of nearly $60,000 for an EV last year.
They all tend to kind of sit at the upper price range. And so when we start to see some more affordable electric vehicles hit the market, I think that'll be a big catalyst for sales growth.
Other concerns include range and charging infrastructure, so Nye says many car buyers have turned to plug-in hybrids.
And the plug-in electric hybrid just allows Canadians to, frankly, do most of their daily driving in all electric while maintaining the safety net of a gas-powered engine.
While early adopters have already made the switch to electric, mainstream customers still need some convincing. Nye says more than 40% of Canadians have yet to even test drive an electric car. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, for news anytime, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio and spending some time with us this Friday, February 13th. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. It was so foggy yesterday. We've all been talking about it here. I'm sure you have been as well. This morning, not so much, so that's good news. We are still mild, though. We'll get into your forecast in just a couple of minutes here. Also this hour, we are attempting to reach a Winnipegger who is likely having a lot of fun. Maybe too much fun to pick up the phone? We'll try to reach a Winnipegger in Milano right now who's watching the Olympic Games, so we have that on tap this hour. Also this hour, you just heard about the Munich Security Conference. It does start today. We'll get some deeper analysis of what you heard on World Report about Western leaders and security experts and where we are in this moment. And that is coming up. Plus, later in the show, we have the origins of Valentine's Day on our faith column. I just want to mention that. So John Longhurst is going to be here a little bit later. Right now, Riley Leitchuk is actually in, and he's here with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. A Winnipeg man wants hospitals to reevaluate how patients are paired together in shared rooms. Tony Capizzi says his 94-year-old mother was attacked by a man who tried to smother her with a towel in their shared room at St. Boniface Hospital last month. The man has now been charged with assault in connection with that incident. And one person was taken to hospital in critical condition after a fire in West Broadway last evening. Firefighters rescued the person from the home near Yonge and Broadway. A second person and a firefighter were both taken to hospital in stable condition. More on these stories and more local news coming up at 6:30.
I know you had some serious headlines, but I just want to do this for you. Woo! Yeah! It's Riley, our weather specialist. Woo!
It's going to be a fun morning.
Yeah.
I haven't done this shift in a long time. So.
That was also because everybody knows that whoever delivers the weather regularly on CBC gets all of the, Riley, why is it so cold?
Oh, yes.
So I thought I'd give you some love because this is unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a nice stretch of it, this warm weather.
It's going to be a nice long weekend.
Yeah, so Abby's going to deliver that in a second, but I do want to ask you, you were mentioning off air to me that yesterday the fog was crazy right through the day, hey?
Yeah, leaving after the show last night, we could barely see across the street here downtown. When this fire broke out, it's 2 blocks from here.
Oh, it adds to it.
We couldn't see the smoke. We couldn't see where this fire was happening. We knew it was somewhere close to the building. Couldn't see it happening 2 blocks from here.
Yeah.
Like it was that foggy out.
Pretty serious stuff added in with the fog. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
So Riley's with us throughout the morning, but of course we're going to turn to Abby, who is our regular guy in the weather, and find out about today.
Yeah, Marcy, we're sitting at -3 at the Forks and -9 at the airports, with just some light breeze. We saw that fog advisory overnight. It ended before we started the show this morning in most of the areas, but some regions will still be spotting it, especially outside the city limit. And by the afternoon period, we expect most of the leftover mist to burn off, and it's going to reveal some clear conditions. And we'll see a high close to, we may see close to 0 today, but I see -1 for now, really making it like a beautiful day at if you are planning to attend the festival. It's going to be a beautiful one with the weather range in that range of -1 and 0 later. And then tonight we're going to see more clear conditions. And if you look across the southern regions, we're still seeing temperatures around -5, and Brandon reporting -13 at this time. Up north, the wind chill still feels pretty brutal in the Churchill area. We're talking about a -32 wind chill factored in. So we still have that. The north still experiencing that split in cold conditions, while down south we're enjoying the mild stretch that we've been enjoying for a few days. But Winnipeg right now, we're looking at temperatures hover between -3 and -9, depending on where you are in the city.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
That'll make for a messy commute. Corey Funk's in to tee it up. Hello.
Yes, especially if you are biking today. It's International Winter Bike to Work Day today. So if you see some more folks out there, maybe give your winter cyclist a wave on their special day. It's like Christmas for winter cyclists today. So yeah, but it should be messy out there and a little bit foggy as well. I haven't heard of any other issues on the highways or anything.
There are events for that as well in Winnipeg. So this morning between 7:30 and 9 specifically at the corner of Gary and Assiniboine, they're going to be having hot chocolate, granola bars, some of the bike groups coming out to encourage people.
Oh, great. That's a really busy lane for cyclists too. So that's awesome. Yes. So if you're out there, you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you want to give us a shout out this morning, you can give us a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, let's take you to Munich now. The world has entered an era of, quote, wrecking ball politics. It's the slogan of this big annual meeting that does begin today in Munich. Mainly Western leaders and security experts who will be talking about the end of international security systems that we've known since the Second World War, and something that our Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed in Davos. They'll be talking about what lies ahead because of all of this. Minister of Foreign Affairs Anita Anand will be there representing Canada because Prime Minister Carney's going to be in attendance after the mass shooting in British Columbia. He'll be in Tumbler Ridge. To talk about this meeting in Munich, though, we do have Oral Brown with us up early. He's a political scientist at the University of Toronto. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this theme, wrecking ball politics, why are all of these leaders saying we are and agreeing that we're at a hinge moment?
Indeed, this is a very difficult time. We have in the White House a leader who has been very bombastic, provocative, deeply offensive, and this meeting and the report that was prepared for the meeting, the Munich Security Conference, which is a leading international forum on global security policy and defense, is the 62nd edition of it, is very forthright in not only highlighting the difficulties, but also naming Donald Trump as the demolition man, of highlighting itself very clearly the destructiveness of American policy, security policy. And we know that the United States passed a new national security strategy just at the end of last year, which views Europe as a much less geopolitically important area. It talks about Russia as a terminally declining power, and therefore the United States, which is elsewhere. And all of that, of course, is understandable, and the policies of the United States often are indeed very disruptive, particularly under Donald Trump. At the same time, I think we need to appreciate the fact that this is not as recent as one would think. And let me just give you some examples that the international legal order didn't just fail this year. It failed very clearly a number of times. Take 2014, for instance, when Russia invaded Ukraine in an aggressive action where it illegally annexed Crimea. In collective security, which is the raison d'etre of the United Nations, the UN did nothing about it. In 2022, when there was an all-out invasion of Ukraine by Russia, again, collective security via the United Nations failed totally. So we should not be surprised entirely by what is happening. It is the case that we need to react to the world as it is.
So if I may interject here, given what you're saying then, and given obviously what I alluded to that Mark Carney won't be there, but obviously he did address this in Davos, Foreign Minister Anita Anand is there for Canada. What will Canada's message be to the group about real action? If the contention is that, yes, this is a new moment, but actually we've seen inaction and we have all these examples. How do we move forward?
There likely will be a repetition of what Mr. Carney said, that Canada is focusing on building our defense capabilities. They will be able to point to Canada signing a number of important agreements with the EU, including the Canada-EU SAFE agreement about Readiness 2030, the plan that the EU has. And we also signed the Canada-EU Security Defense Partnership, the SDP, but that is a non-legally binding partnership. And this is where we have to distinguish between promises and policies, between aspirations and achievements. that when we listen to the president of Ukraine, he's saying, you in the West are talking about the issues, you are saying encouraging things, but you're not moving quickly enough. You are not delivering the goods. We in Ukraine are up against a Russia that is extremely aggressive, that wants to deal Ukraine a knockout blow, and it is an emergency situation. And you look at Spain, for example. Spain is not even intending to meet the 2% guideline, which is an old guideline. Canada is just meeting it this year. We're not scaling up fast enough. And what the Ukrainian president has said is something that is also a reality that means that we have to move much faster, that we have to spend much more, as much as we rightly would prefer to spend funds on healthcare, on housing, on education.
Just as a last question, I mean, let's look at the United States here. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will represent the U.S. It will likely mean different messaging compared to last year when Vice President J.D. Vance took the stage, and by all accounts, shook things up pretty much, shook up the alliance. He was disparaging European allies, insulting them. I just want to look specifically at Rubio and what you expect him to deliver.
In some ways, Rubio is part of the cleanup crew. He will not change American policy, but he will put it in a much friendlier way. It will be something similar to what the American ambassador to the NATO alliance has said, that the United States has no intention of withdrawing from the alliance or undermining the alliance, that what they want to see is that the members of the alliance, Canada included, will deliver on their commitments, that they would increase their defense targets, and that he is willing to work together with the allies. So it will be a message of reassurance, but at the same time, one needs to recognize that there is a shift, and not just on the part of the United States, but there has been a shift for quite some time now in the international system, where it is a matter of balancing power with power.
Thanks for your time, Oral. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So that is Oral Brown with us this morning, talking about what's happening in Munich. He is a political science professor over at the University of Toronto. It is 6:21 a.m. It's clear, -4 downtown, -8 out at the airport, and today's high is going to be -1 ahead of a really nice weekend. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on CBC's Information Radio. Well, we're about to go to Olympic Report. But before we do, let's talk about the 7 medals so far for Canada, 3 silver, 4 bronze. Maybe every day you get up and you scroll the medal counts, and sometimes you go down to find our results. We wondered, though, how much it matters to win gold, bronze, or silver. CBC's Melody Jacobson checked out the nation's temperature to see if medal fever has taken hold. And her conversations are accompanied by a little bit of an electro-folk version of an Italian producer's Dardust track called Italian Fantasia.
If Canada wins more medals, do we feel better about ourselves?
Absolutely, yeah.
How so?
What parent would say you're winning too many medals?
Yeah, I feel proud as an Iranian-Canadian person, mostly because Canada is great and nice. I had never had that experience that we get some medals to our country. So I'm happy about it.
To know like our Canadian people standing there, like winning the medal, you know, and then it just like, that's something like that you can brag about.
I think other countries will look up or down on us depending on how many medals we get.
I feel like maybe it reinforces like ideas people already have about Canada, especially in the Winter Olympics, right? So maybe if someone in Spain sees that Canada won hockey, it might like reinforce this idea that we're just like a winter country.
I think a lot of other countries don't think about Canada at all. They think about the U.S. rather than Canada.
If we win more medals, do you think that that changes?
I hope so.
It will give a good feedback of Canada and Canadian culture, the healthy culture of sports and everything going on in this country, which I'm really seeing it in the streets, even not only in the Olympics and everything, but also you can see in the streets, the regular people are athletic people.
As Carney said, the middle powers, it's not the same as 5, even 10 medals from a very wealthy country.
Like every medal means more?
Right, I think so, because they don't have the support that the big countries have in terms of resources and teachers and training. The world is not uninformed, whether it's a, again, industrialized country or not. People are aware. And so I thought I heard that when the Canadians were introduced, there was a very, very loud cheering.
And there certainly was a very loud cheering when the Canadians were introduced. What are we cheering for today? We'll find out in a moment on Olympic Update. And then in business news, there's numbers in. We'll find out how much Americans paid because of all of those tariffs last year. But right now it is time on CBC for Olympic Report.
Good morning. I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic Games report. It is day 7 in Milano Cortina, and it stands to be a quieter one than yesterday, where Canada nearly doubled its medal count.
Brad Jacobs trying to conjure up a little bit of magic here.
Is it through? It is.
It is through. Does it touch the red? It does. Little bump for 2. Somebody has brought his A game to Cortina, and his name is Brad Jacobs.
Action already underway on the pebbled ice in Cortina. Canada's Brad Jacobs improved his record to 2-0 by topping the U.S.'s Daniel Casper this morning. Later today, Rachel Homan tries to take down an American foe of her own when she faces Tabitha Peterson. The sports rivalry between North American neighbors has seldom been more intense. U.S. President Donald Trump's rhetoric around Canada becoming a 51st state only added to that intensity. The head of the Canadian Olympic Committee, David Shoemaker, was asked about the not always friendly competition.
The rivalry with the United States is one that's decades and decades old in sport, and yet I think there's a little bit more riding on it, and we'll certainly see that, but we certainly haven't instructed our athletes to behave in a certain way. And what's great about sport is I think that they're going to compete like heck, and then whatever the outcome, shake hands at the end of the day.
Judging by what we saw at hockey's Four Nations face-off, there are different ways of shaking hands. It is not just the current geopolitical situation that has anxiety between the countries rising. There are several athletes in Milano Cortina who've switched allegiances. Skeleton's Hallie Clark and figure skating's Diana Stellato-Dudek both used to compete for the U.S. and now wear the maple leaf, while Kaylee Humphries, Canada's most decorated bobsled ever, now wears the Stars and Stripes. Those are just a few examples. And then there's that promo video Calgary Rays pop star Tate McRae did ahead of these games.
I'm trying to get to Milan and meet Team USA. Then it's the weekend with America's best skating for gold.
Let's just say the reaction on social media to that ad was swift and strong. With all that said, the next Canada-U.S. rivalry we see played out at these Olympics starts shortly. Women's curling at 8:05 Eastern Time. To the slopes now, where women's snowboard cross is set to get underway. It's an event Canada has a strong history in.
What can Odine do? Can she hang on? Yes, Marietta Odine has got herself a bronze medal.
Prince George BC's Marietta Odine reaching the podium at the last games in Beijing. She also combined with Elliott Grondin to claim bronze in the team event. Unfortunately, Odine hurt herself in training last week, a broken ankle that will keep her out of these games, and so Canada's hopes in Milano Cortina rest with Audrey McManaman. McManaman is a 31-year-old with just one career World Cup medal to her name, so we'll see. The snowboard cross elimination rounds get started in just a few minutes' time. Today is the last of the long-distance speed skating races, and as CBC's Omar Dabagi Pacheco tells us, the 10,000-meter event will have a veteran Canadian in contention.
A grueling race. Skaters I talked to call it the pain train. The lactic acid building up. Expect some grimaces on the faces of those skaters. And holding the hopes for the Canadians is Ted-Jan Blumen, gold medalist in this distance in Pyeongchang. Held the Olympic record back then. I spoke to him earlier. He said, look, I feel fast, I feel powerful, and he says this is the event that he prefers. I asked him why. He said, look, I'm an athlete, I like a good challenge. Watch for some emotion on his face, though, as he goes around that finish lap. His 2 young children in the stands during this last race of his last Olympics. And the challengers, Norway's Sander Itram, the first man to go under 6 minutes in a 5,000-meter race just a couple weeks ago. broke the Olympic record here in Milan. And then you've got Italy's Davide Ghiotto, a guy that wants to make his mark on this ice. Other top contenders for the medals, Poland, USA, France. But here's the thing about the 10K. Racers don't get to do it often in a season. Pacing is everything, and anything can happen with 25 laps on the ice.
CBC's Omar Debagi Pacheco from Milano. Looking at the medal table, it's host Italy leading the way with 17 medals. After its big day yesterday, Canada has 7, and if you're wondering, that is only half the number the U.S. has won so far. Then again, we're not even halfway through these games. That is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Rieger.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Riley Lachuk in Winnipeg at 6:30. Clear sky in Winnipeg at the moment. It is -8, a light west wind at this hour. We're expecting a mostly sunny day today across southern Manitoba. Our high in Winnipeg, -1 this afternoon. A Winnipeg family is calling for better patient safety after their 94-year-old mother was attacked in her hospital bed by another patient. Tony Capizzi says his mother was admitted to the hospital on January 9th and placed in a shared room with another man. Capizzi says he received a disturbing call from hospital staff the next day.
Tell you this, but I've never seen anything like this. But your mother was assaulted. The patient next to her, it was a man, found out it was a man, tried to suffocate her with a towel. You know, a nurse heard her screaming and went in there and stopped the incident.
Winnipeg police have charged a 49-year-old man with assault in relation to the incident. The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority says hospital management has been in contact with the family to offer support. To the inquiry into the Winnipeg Police Headquarters now, and intense exchanges yesterday between the former mayor and the city's lawyer. Sam Cates spent the day testifying. City lawyer Michael Finlayson honed in on a 2011 personal real estate transaction between former CAO Phil Schiegel's company and Cates. The city doesn't believe the purported Arizona land deal was real. Schiegel and Cates claim they split a check from Caspian construction owner Armik Babakanians. They say he bought their interest in an acre of land for $327,000. Finlayson questioned Cates about the math. Cates says Schiegel handled the deal.
Did you ask him why it's only 100 and not 160 and change?
No.
Why not? I'm sorry? A shrug can't.
I haven't said anything yet. That's so you, because it wasn't an issue to me at the time.
In 2022, a court ruled Schiegel accepted a bribe for $327,000 from Caspian Construction and ordered him to pay the city compensation. The CBC's Bartley Kivas is covering the inquiry for CBC Manitoba. He'll have more on Cates' testimony coming up at 7:50 on Information Radio. Prime Minister Mark Carney is visiting Tumbler Ridge, BC today. The Prime Minister will attend a vigil in the community 3 days after 9 people died in one of the worst mass shootings in modern Canadian history. Carney has invited all federal party leaders to join him, and they have all accepted the invitation. This follows the RCMP releasing the victims' identities. The children killed range in age from 11 to 13. The other victims include the shooter's mother and an educational assistant, as well as a 19-year-old woman and a 12-year-old girl who are recovering in hospital from serious injuries. The girl is being treated at BC Children's Hospital in Vancouver. Opponents of a proposed bylaw restricting protests say if passed, it would effectively outlaw demonstrations in a wide area of the city. The bylaw would restrict so-called nuisance protests within 100 meters of schools, cultural centers, and other designated sites. Community groups who met last night at West End Commons argue the bylaw is too broad. Councillor Evan Duncan brought the proposed bylaw forward. He says it is aimed at preventing intimidation.
I'd like to know what exactly type of protest these folks plan on participating in that causes intimidation at one of those protests, because that sounds like what the opposition would be, that they like to intimidate people, and that's their goal here, is that don't take away my right to intimidate.
The bylaw will be debated at the next Executive Policy Committee meeting next Tuesday. The Manitoba government and United Way Winnipeg are funding 6 new liaison positions to help families at risk of losing their children to CFS. The workers will help caregivers access support and services in their community. But Manitoba Foster Parent Association President Jamie Fow says their role goes beyond that.
The liaison can easily build a rapport with the family. The family's more likely to be honest and vulnerable and truthful about where they're struggling, where their challenges are, and also be a little bit more open to discussing where their strengths are.
Fow says family liaisons can help mitigate risk factors and prevent children from being apprehended. The province says that has been the case for about 480 families since 2021. And a new crew is rocketing toward the International Space Station this morning to replace the astronauts who returned to Earth early in NASA's first medical evacuation. SpaceX launched the replacements as soon as possible at NASA's request. The 4 orbit-bound astronauts are expected to be up in space for 8 to 9 months, stretching into this fall. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. I'll have more news coming up at 7:30.
Thanks very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
Riley Lachuk in our news center this morning, filling in for Heather Wells. Well, here we are Friday, folks, and let's find out about our regional forecast all around Manitoba with Abby.
Those fog conditions yesterday, Marcy, was something, and so glad it's lifted this morning because during the commute home for a lot of people yesterday, it was like near zero visibility, especially for those driving towards Brandon and driving towards the U.S. border. It was a bit hectic. And this morning, when I got the notification that it's been lifted, I was like, oh, finally, at least. But we're still seeing some stubborn traces here and there. So we'll be on the lookout for near zero visibility in some areas outside the city. But for Winnipeg right now, we're sitting at -4 at the Forks and -8 at the airport with light breeze. As mentioned, the fog advisory has ended before a lot of people even woke up this morning. And by the afternoon, expect the leftover mist to burn off. It's going to bring a bunch of clear conditions. It's going to stay very comfortable. We're going to see highs around -1, really making it the wonderful one, especially for those making preparations for festival that starts today. So you definitely have the weather to do that. And for tonight, it's going to be also clear conditions. We might just see temperatures settle back to about -4, but that should be comfortable. Across the southern regions, we're looking at the Pembina Valley region, seeing temperatures near -4, spotted around the Brandon, the Morden area. In the Westman region, Brandon reporting -13 with foggy conditions still being spotted there, while the Parkland region sees Dauphin sitting around -11 with clear conditions. In the Interlake region, Gimli is a bit colder, around -14 this morning. Tracking it into the northern part of the province, Thompson reports -9 with some misty conditions and light dusting of our snow still spotted. Gillam also holding similar cloudy conditions in that area. The coast, we're talking about Churchill, currently seeing light snow falling. The air temperatures around -23 at this time, with a wind chill factored around -32. So take it easy. But for Winnipeg right now, depending on where you are, you might see -3, and some areas might see -9.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
How was the run in this morning, Corey?
Lovely, actually. Kind of feels like I was running through like foggy, moody mystery novel.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Not as pretty as yesterday because the trees don't have all the white all over them
Yes,
today.
exactly, yeah.
But maybe safer because you can see more.
Yeah, exactly, and not too slippery underfoot either, actually. So, and really, haven't heard of any issues out on the roads yet either this morning. But if you do see something, if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, because it is International Winter Bike to Work Day, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. Let me know what you're seeing out there. That number 204-788-3093.
I should mention on that front that still ahead this half hour on the program, we're going to talk to Winnipeg's bike mayor about what they're doing for International Bike to Work Day. And spoiler alert, she's on her way to a location right now where you might be able to pick up some hot chocolate if you're active commuting. So stay tuned. We'll also ask her about the status of winter cycling in Winnipeg, where we're at, and what it is like on years, especially like this, where we have bouts of really cold weather like we had in January, and then this warm weather. So whether or not the city is keeping up to make our community bikeable. So that's coming up still in this half hour of the show. Right now, though, Phil DeMont joins us with business news. Hi, Phil.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that it is Bike to Work Day. I can't drive a bike.
Oh, really? Did you never learn to ride a bike?
No, as a kid, I kind of fell off a couple times as a 6-year-old, cried. My parents, I think, figured I would learn at some point. Never actually did. I've never ridden a two-wheel bicycle, so it's not my day today.
That happened to me when I was trying to learn Ukrainian. I think they started to teach me a bit, and then I
Just
cried.
said no.
This is really hard. And now years later, I actually wish that I had that language. So you should have kept it up. I should have kept it up. Maybe there's still hope for us, Phil.
No hope.
Let's talk business news here. This move surprised Bay Street yesterday. Darren Entwistle is the CEO of TELUS, and he's out.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because he's been there for 25 years. Had wanted one more year to train his successor. Instead, he'll be gone by this June, replaced by former CIBC head honcho Victor Dodic. All this was announced at TELUS's, they popped out their numbers yesterday, fourth quarter and full year. It's a surprise because analysts didn't catch any hint that a CEO change was in the wind. They knew it was obviously coming, and Whistle's not staying there forever, but they didn't think it was going to come yesterday. There are questions, though, and have been about TELUS's direction for a while. The company's stock is down, has been attracting fewer new customers, but faces increased competition on the wireless side for its existing customers. Then there's the company's debt and dividend policy. That's been a problem for analysts. Long-term debt up 12% since 2023. That's not ridiculous, but paying interest on the debt up a third. That number's starting to accelerate. TELUS's debt to equity ratio. It's a key measure of whether you have too much debt. It's outside the normal range, so it's not a red flag, but maybe a pink flag. Also, Entwistle has been pushing consistently for higher dividends for shareholders. That policy can help your stock price, but it can hurt your cash flow because you actually have to pay the dividends. TELUS's dividend yield, which is just a measure of how lucrative it is about 50% above the industry average. The new issue for the new CEO is Dodic's background. It's banking, which is a dynamic industry, but it's not telcos where TELUS is. So there's a question of whether he has a learning curve or whether he's there to do other things, like there's a suspicion they want to sell off a bunch of the subsidiaries that they have now and pare the company down.
To another story, the numbers are now in, and this will be interesting because how much did Americans pay because of all of those tariffs last year?
Well, 90% of what Washington raised. This is a new study from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. It's not what the administration in Washington has been saying. Donald Trump keeps insisting foreigners are paying all these tariffs. New York Fed says something different. They came up with the 90% number. So if you look at 2025, the U.S. Treasury took in about $190 billion in tariffs. American businesses and consumers, they paid $176 billion of that bill. Earlier study made the division between companies and individuals says individual Americans pay about 70% of that bill. So when you do all that math, that's about $123 billion in cash from the wallets of the average American. 2025, Trump, they introduced a blizzard of new tariffs. Before that year, 2024, the average rate on American imports, 2.6%. Now it's 13%. In economics, Marcia, there's three ways you pay tariffs. In this case, by American companies, lower profits; American consumers, higher prices; foreign companies who cut their prices to keep market share. Despite what Trump says, the New York Fed says Americans paid most of these new charges. I look at it a different way. If foreigners actually paid these tariffs, let's say on Canadian imports, why wouldn't Ottawa slam up the highest tariffs possible and pay off the national debt? Because foreigners don't pay our tariffs.
And how did Washington's immigration policy in Minnesota blow up an Amazon deal in Atlanta?
Because that controversial ICE action in Minnesota has made Americans much more suspicious about surveillance technology. And that basically was what Amazon's partnership with Flock Technology was going to do. Amazon owns Ring. It's a smart home security service it bought back in 2018. Flock Technology out of Atlanta has software that tracks license plates, listens for gunshots, that sort of thing. It's used by law enforcement. Amazon's plan was to match Flock's software up with Ring's network to make, to provide better neighborhood security. So they ran an ad in the Super Bowl that showed how the system could track your lost puppy. Led to a lot of criticism, though, from civil liberties groups. They're worried, obviously, that this type of surveillance could be used by law enforcement to track people on what they do and that sort of thing. So Amazon, probably in this era or in this kind of temperature, decided to pull the plug in the partnership.
All right, Phil, thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcy.
And it's Phil DeMott with our business news. 6:44 a.m. is the time right now. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're with CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. -8 at the airport, -4 downtown. Foggy in Brandon, still in -11, though no advisories today. And in Thompson, some mist and -9. Well, let's turn our attention to the national tragedy that happened and unfolded in Tumbler Ridge, BC. The very latest that we understand now, and in case you missed this yesterday, is that RCMP have identified all 8 people who were shot and killed in Tumbler Ridge, BC, including the 5 children who lost their lives at the school. The victims between the ages of 12 and 13 years old. So throughout today, we're hearing from their parents as they talk about who they were. The tragedy has thrown an entire community into agony. I mean, this is a small community. A mass shooter, as you know, killed young people at the school. It's a rare occurrence in this country. The circumstances have also led to a lot of questions. Police confirmed yesterday as well that officers had visited the alleged shooter's home for calls related to mental health in the past. The RCMP say some of the calls dealt with guns, which were seized, but that neither weapon used on Tuesday was registered to the suspect. Wendy Sukir is co-founder of Canada's Coalition for Gun Control and a professor over at Toronto Metropolitan University. The CBC spoke to her about gun laws in this situation.
The law is very clear. The police can remove firearms when they think there's a risk to an individual or any other person. However, the owner of the guns can apply to have the guns returned. And in this instance, it's not clear who the owner of the guns was. But in principle, the laws provide a lot of latitude for getting guns away from people who are perceived to be a risk. The question is, how do you prove someone is a risk? And what I would say, and this is based on studying mass shootings, not just in Canada, but around the world, what we need to recognize is that the risks for suicide and the risks for homicide, particularly in young people, are very similar. And so if you have a young person with a history of mental illness and you have firearms in your home, as many rural homes do, you have a major risk. And the perspective of families, the perspective of communities, particularly in rural Canada, about the risks associated with firearms is often not aligned with reality. And we found that in Portapique as well. You know, there was a massive study as a result of the mass shooting there. The Mass Casualty Commission made all sorts of recommendations, and they included not just addressing things like mental health, not just addressing loopholes in the laws, but also looking at public awareness, looking at the administration of the law. In our view, you should always err on the side of safety, because the consequences of taking someone's guns away are far less significant than the consequences of letting someone keep their guns if they or someone in their household are a risk. And we see this over and over. I have to really emphasize that when we look at mass shootings in Canada, most of the shooters are legal gun owners or use guns that were at one time legally owned. This is not an issue of smuggled guns. You know, there's a lot of effort to deflect attention away from regulating legal gun owners and legal guns. And this case, I think, will show that that is not the issue. At least when we look at mass shootings, it's almost always legal gun owners and legal guns. We actually believe that the current laws are quite strong. We would like to see them move on the ban on handguns, which there's still regulations that are required and so on. Where a lot of the gaps are, and this came out in the Portapique shootings, are in the administration of those laws, in the interpretation and the application of those laws, in the awareness communities have, as I said, of what the risks are associated with firearms in the home. Lots of people think gun violence is an urban problem. We hear a lot about urban gang violence. We hear a lot about smuggled guns. Rural communities in Canada have higher rates of gun violence on a per capita basis than big cities. So there's a misperception of the nature of gun violence, the kinds of guns that are used in gun violence, but the rhetoric does not match the evidence.
Wendy Sukier, co-founder of Canada's Coalition for Gun Control and a professor at Toronto Metropolitan University. I was just scanning your comments on Facebook. I asked Manitobans to weigh in respectively and respectfully and send positive thoughts to Tumbler Ridge. And some of you were already bringing up questions about guns in this country. When it comes to the Prime Minister, today will continue to be a day of shared mourning. Prime Minister Mark Carney and other federal party leaders will be traveling to Tumbler Ridge today. There's a vigil tonight at 6:15 their time.
Hi, I'm Saroja Coelho, host of the Saturday afternoon call-in show Just Asking.
And I'm Ian Hannamansing, host of the Sunday afternoon call-in show Cross Country Checkup.
Whether it's world events
or what's happening in your backyard,
every weekend we connect Canada live.
That's Just Asking with Saroja Coelho, Saturday afternoons at 4 Eastern.
And Cross Country Checkup with Ian Hannamansing, Sunday afternoons at 4 Eastern on CBC Radio 1.
Time right now is 10 to 7, and today, Friday, February 13th, is International Winter Bike to Work Day, and it's something that actually started in Winnipeg back in 2013, and now it's celebrated in a lot of places in the world. Patty Weens is Winnipeg's bike mayor, and she's actually on her way, going to be setting up to something that you can go to this morning if you're an active commuter, and we've caught her on her way there, I think. Hello, Patty.
Hi, Marcy. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you headed?
We are headed to just at the intersection of Gary and Assiniboine, Bonnycastle Park, where we usually have coffee outside from May long weekend to October long weekend. But today we're celebrating Winter Bike to Work Day. And you're right, it did start here in Winnipeg.
So today you're doing a special sort of, you do this, as you said, through the warmer months usually, but today you're putting on your coffee, hot chocolate morning for folks to encourage them to winter bike. Can people just stop by Bonnycastle Park at Gary and Assiniboine and pick up a hot chocolate and have a chat?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of people who do winter cycle, but everyone is welcome. Anyone that's walking by or even driving by want to stop and have a chat, that'd be great.
So we always like to highlight sort of what it takes to winter cycle. Actually, in a few weeks, we're going to be doing a whole show devoted to commuting in the winter in Winnipeg and what the needs are. What's the reality to get it done? Like, first, let's start with the positives about, how possible it is given the lanes that we have and such.
It is very possible, and the city has been making it a little bit easier. The plowing has been a lot better in the last, I would say, 3 years. And so it's really about the infrastructure. Do we have safe infrastructure that gets cleared regularly? Because we're Winnipeggers, we're tough. We can handle a little cold. It's just like going for a long walk,
Yep.
So it's totally possible. But if the infrastructure is not there or is not clear, that is the number one reason why people don't do it. When you talk to people, they're like, oh, I just don't feel safe. So, and it's a little bit darker too, so you need lights. But for the most part, it's actually super easy. And the great thing about winter cycling is you don't have to do it every day. That's why we also, support fully funded transit. So we have an option. If it's a bad day, just had a big snowstorm, we can take transit. It's okay.
Are the divided lanes, the ones where you're separated from traffic, still the gold standard in the winter, or are they harder to clear because they're so narrow?
Well, yeah, they are a little bit harder to clear. So sometimes you will see cyclists on the actual road, and it makes it a little bit scarier. So we do constantly, call and email Public Works asking them to properly clear our lanes. The ones downtown are a little bit icier, I would say, but separated trails like the Yellow Ribbon Trail or the Northeast Pioneers Greenway, the Blue Line, they're cleared perfectly, and they're so great because they're completely away from cars and make everything so much more pleasant. And, we wish we had more of that, to be honest.
Patty, do you have to have a fat bike?
You don't have to have a fat bike, no. Some people have really skinny tires. Some people have fat tires. Some people have regular bikes. Some people have e-bikes. All bikes are welcome. All bikes are possible. The studded tires are kind of the trick. So you, regardless of what kind of bike you have, to have studded tires is what really makes the big difference.
I know nothing about this. So are you changing them off like you would on your car? And is there a big cost to that?
Yeah, exactly. You would change them off like you do with your car. It is a lot cheaper than car tires. And you can often buy them used as well. And there's resources like the Wrench. They usually have some used studded tires that you can buy. So there's lots of options. Definitely way, way, way cheaper than driving and buying, winter tires for your car.
Yeah, of course. For yourself, I'm not sure how long you've been actively commuting in the wintertime or how often you actually get out winter biking.
This is my fourth winter, to be honest. I'm Brazilian. I've been here for 36 years and only started enjoying winter when I started commuting, and I go every day. I have only used transit one day this year before my bike was quite ready to go. And the past years, too, it's very rare that I'm not able to do it.
It's interesting that you say you only started to enjoy winter, really, when you started to winter commute. So explain that to us, Patty.
I used to be so scared of winter, and I hated being cold, and I hated winter. I just hated the minute the first snowfall came. I was miserable till April, May, even June sometimes. But then I started going, it's going to be here. I need to start enjoying it. And commuting was a big thing because I didn't want to pay for parking downtown when I got a job downtown. And Ian, my partner, who's actually organizing this whole coffee outside thing today, the hot chocolate outside, said to me, why don't you just try? And if you can't do it, you can't do it. It's fine. And I tried it, and it was so invigorating. It felt like I had superpowers. And it was just so transformative. Actually, I even wrote a book about it. And that's when I really started going, oh, wait, I don't hate winter anymore. This is so great. You just get to really enjoy the snow, the path. Everything's so quiet and so sparkly.
There's something about embracing it. We live here, right? So we got to figure out some ways. So do we have an idea of the numbers at all about how many people, that's a difficult question, but how many people winter commute or how it might have grown?
I don't have the actual numbers, but I think that we notice, we really kind of, as cyclists, we know the people that we encounter every day on our commute. And everyone has been saying, I see a lot more people out there. And maybe it is in the introduction of e-bikes. Maybe it's because winters are not actually that cold anymore. We rarely get those cold days like we used to get 5, 6 years ago even. And the cost of gas, the cost of living, everything, right? So people are finding different alternatives, and that's why it's important to provide those alternatives because traffic is getting worse and worse every day, and it's only going to get worse. We can only add so many lanes, and we need to provide this alternative, and people are finding it. There are more lanes, there are more options, and people are taking it.
Thank you very much for your time teeing up the day. I know you're heading over to the event that starts at 7:30 this morning, and have a wonderful rest of your morning.
Thank you so much. Yeah, anyone who wants to stop by, please do and say hi.
Okay, Patty, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's Patty Weens, Winnipeg's bike mayor. She is on her way to Bonnycastle Park, corner of Gary and Assiniboine Avenue. Why? Well, 7:30 to 9 o'clock, they're going to be having a gathering there. They're going to have coffee outside, little hot chocolate there if you want to go by. The whole idea is to support biking in the winter and active commuting in the winter. It is International Winter Bike to Work Day, something that started here in Winnipeg back in 2013. And I will just plug that we are having a whole remote dedicated to winter commuting and the business of being a winter city, and that is coming up on Live from the Forks, InfoRad. We're going to hopefully be on the ice, so we don't want to get too warm because we need the ice to be staying intact for us. But that's coming up on February 25th. So just in a couple of weeks' time. So we're collecting stories. If you're a winter commuter, we'd love to hear from you. 788-3205. Still ahead in the next hour of Information Radio on our faith column, the origin of Valentine's Day. So stay tuned for that. Plus, some of the littlest Winnipeggers are going to weigh in on love and Valentine's Day. And we'll find out what color a 4-year-old thinks represents the day. Spoiler alert, they didn't say red. So stay tuned. We've got a cute video with that one. 3 minutes to 7 now, though, and with some serious headlines, we turn our attention to Riley Lachuk.
Good morning. A Winnipeg man whose mother was assaulted by another patient at St. Boniface Hospital says hospitals need to reevaluate how patients are paired in shared rooms. Tony Capizzi says his 94-year-old mother was smothered with a towel by the man she was sharing a room with. That man has now been charged. And St. Vital Shopping Centre has new owners. Montreal-based real estate firm Layad has bought the mall for just over $160 million. The 1 million square foot shopping centre attracts some 8 million visitors annually. I'll have more on that and more local news coming up after World Report.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
In addition, I want to mention something Riley has had in the news this morning as well. Former Winnipeg Mayor Sam Cates has now testified in the Winnipeg Police Headquarters public inquiry. CBC reporter Bartley Kivas is following this. He will join us to let us know more about what Cates had to say at his testimony yesterday. I'll mention the weather here. It should be really pretty nice out there. Clear, -4 downtown, -8 at the airport. Little foggy over in Brandon at -11. Misty up in Thompson, -9. Winnipeg will be sunny today and a high of -1. It's always great when you get warm temperatures, and that sunshine just makes it feel so nice out there. So a lot of things are going to melt, I suspect, today. Enjoy your Friday, and right now, enjoy listening to World Report. That's coming up next. It's 1 minute to 7 o'clock. You're on 89.3.
On the current.
I've hardly find it necessary to restate it, but we have 100% policy against doping.
I'm Rebecca Zandbergen. The Russian flag hasn't flown at the Olympics in years after doping scandals and the invasion of Ukraine. But Olympic officials are hinting the country could be at the next Games. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm John Northcott.
I feel like I'm living in a nightmare right now that I just can't wake up from.
David Gabella describes the pain of the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting. His 12-year-old daughter, Maya, was seriously injured. She remains in hospital, fighting for her life.
To be honest, I don't know how to feel. Seeing your child like that in the hospital bed, like, I'm lost for words on it.
Gabella says he remains hopeful that Maya will recover. But another father is grieving the death of his son. The CBC's Tanya Fletcher has more.
He was such a great boy, such a good boy.
Abel Mwanza describes his 12-year-old son, Abel Mwanza Jr., one of the victims who died at Tumbler Ridge Secondary.
Everybody loves him, and everybody knew him in town. So he always putting up a smile, always, and it became part of him, and it was so genuine.
His son was born in Zambia, and the family moved to Canada 3 years ago. Paul Landrecht works at a local grocery store and knew Abel.
He was so polite and so good and well-spoken, and for a 12-year-old child, I thought, man, he is so mature and so intelligent. What a brilliant child.
The other students killed at the school were 12-year-olds Kylie Smith, Zoe Benoit, and Tikaria Lampert, as well as 13-year-old Ezekiel Schofield and an educator, 39-year-old Shanda Avigana Durand. Discovered inside the family home were the shooter's stepbrother, 11-year-old Emmett Jacobs, and mother, 39-year-old Jennifer Strang.
I know that all of us are grieving for these families.
Premier David Eby speaking in Victoria on Thursday after returning from Tumbler Ridge.
The shock is starting to wear off in the community, and the emotions are really starting to show up for people.
The two people airlifted to hospital are still recovering from serious injuries. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canada's military police watchdog is sharply criticizing the handling of a sexual assault investigation where the suspect took his own life. Air Force officer Christian Heistand died in January of 2022, 6 weeks after being charged. The Military Police Complaints Commission now says the investigation into Heistand was flawed. The CBC's Murray Brewster explains.
It was an incompetent investigation.
Rory Fowler is a former military lawyer now in private practice. He represents the family of Major Christian Heistand. In the weeks leading up to his death in January 2022, Heistand told his family no one would listen to his side of the story. CBC News first reported on the case in the spring of 2023. Hystan was charged with assaulting a woman with whom he had just ended a long-term affair. In a new report, the chair of the Military Police Complaints Commission, Tammy Tremblay, found military police did not conduct an impartial and thorough investigation, and overall there was a rush to judgment and confirmation bias. The investigation was also, Tremblay said, not properly supervised, with one military police officer showing up drunk on the night the assault was reported. Tremblay declined a CBC News interview request. Fowler says what makes this worse is an internal review into the conduct of military police officers cleared them.
And when somebody finally called them out for their incompetence, the military police were quick to say, nothing wrong here. And even after the Military Police Complaints Commission identified multiple interrelated shortcomings, Canadian Forces Provost Marshal continues to stick her head in the sand.
The Canadian Forces Provost Marshal has refused almost all of the more than dozen recommendations from the Complaints Commission and has not delivered a comment about the findings. Marie Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
In a big reversal of fortune, the Bangladesh National Party wins a sweeping victory in the country's national election. It boycotted the last vote to protest the rule of longtime leader Sheikh Hasina. CBC's South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has the story.
A celebration, but a subdued one outside the office of the man who's on track to become Bangladesh's next prime minister, Tariq Rahman. Instead of loud victory rallies, the 60-year-old leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party asked his supporters to go to the mosque and pray for peace and stability for their country.
Of course, he's the greatest leader we could ever ask for.
I'm the great fan of Mr. Tariq Zia.
Rahman, who only recently returned to Bangladesh after years in self-imposed exile in London, secured a landslide victory, a more than two-thirds majority, in the country's first election after a Gen Z uprising ousted autocratic leader Sheikh Hasina in July 2024. The BNP's main opponent, Muslim party Jamaat-e-Islami, also did historically well after being banned under Hasina's rule. It's set to form a strong opposition, but the party is complaining about the vote counting process, alleging inconsistencies.
The result is good for democracy in Bangladesh.
Says Thomas Keane, senior consultant on Bangladesh for crisis group think tank. But there will be challenges for Rahman, who's never held office before.
The key challenge is managing the kind of macroeconomic stability, but making sure that the economy is delivering on the aspirations of Bangladeshis.
27-year-old Amira Hamid talked of the Bangladesh she wants as she cast a ballot for the first time ever.
I think a Bangladesh of equality, a Bangladesh where women have rights, a Bangladesh where every voice is heard.
The BNP hopes to form government by Sunday. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Dhaka.
The world's largest aircraft carrier is heading to the Middle East. The USS Gerald R. Ford joins another carrier already in the region, part of President Donald Trump's efforts to force Iran into a nuclear deal. The Ford was recently used in the Caribbean for the raid that captured former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The world's most influential security summit kicks off today under a cloud of uncertainty. The Munich Security Conference opens as transatlantic ties face unprecedented strain over trade and the future of Ukraine. Abhi Kugadasan reports.
Unilateral action, power politics, transactional pacts. This year's Munich Security Conference calls it wrecking ball politics, naming the United States as an unreliable ally. Natalie Tocci is a professor at Johns Hopkins School of International Advanced Studies in Italy. She says catastrophe could be useful, though, because when Trump demanded Greenland only a few weeks ago, Europeans did not bend.
The risk in Europe is that when the temperature slightly lowers, the risk is always that of falling back into complacency.
While the future of European strategic autonomy is being discussed over the next couple of days, the future of Ukraine will feature heavily.
People are suffering. It's the coldest time of year. It's unimaginable, the suffering.
Before he boarded his plane to Munich, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he expects to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Abhi Kugadasan for CBC News, Munich.
A new crew is on its way to the International Space Station.
3, 2, 1, ignition. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon, and Godspeed Crew 12.
Some of the drama from Cape Canaveral this morning. The crew on board the SpaceX rocket includes NASA astronauts Jessica Meir and Jack Hathaway, along with colleagues from France and Russia. They're replacing the team that was forced to abort its mission last month. That crew returned early in what was NASA's first medical evacuation from the ISS. And finally, EV sales are sputtering, but automakers insist the future is still electric. With the Toronto International Auto Show starting this morning, Nisha Patel gets a preview of what could recharge the market.
We see EV as the future of the business, but we need to make
At the Toronto International Auto Show, car makers are hoping to spark fresh interest in EVs. Stellantis Canada CEO Trevor Longley says Ottawa's consumer rebates might help. Starting next week, Canadians could get up to $5,000 to buy or lease battery-powered electric vehicles and as much as $2,500 for a plug-in hybrid.
And so we've already seen an increase in demand, especially on that Fiat 500e in Quebec, just with the word getting out that this is coming. And so interest in the products is high.
The EV market is in desperate need of a boost. Sales of new electric vehicles fell almost 40% in the third quarter of last year compared to the year before. Auto analyst J.D. Nye says price is a big barrier for consumers. Canadians paid an average of nearly $60,000 for an EV last year.
They all tend to kind of sit at the upper price range. And so when we start to see some more affordable electric vehicles hit the market, I think that'll be a big catalyst for sales growth.
Other concerns include range and charging infrastructure, so Nye says many car buyers have turned to plug-in hybrids.
And the plug-in electric hybrid just allows Canadians to, frankly, do most of their daily driving in all electric while maintaining the safety net of a gas-powered engine.
While early adopters have already made the switch to electric, mainstream customers still need some convincing. Nye says more than 40% of Canadians have yet to even test drive an electric car. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Welcome to Friday morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on CBC to start your day. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, live from our downtown studios on 89.3. You also might be watching on our YouTube channel this morning, wherever you're joining us. Thanks. It is mild once again. We'll get into that forecast in just a moment. This half hour on the program, the origin of Valentine's Day, today on our faith column. So stay tuned. We'll hear about that. Also, some of the littlest Winnipeggers are going to weigh in on love and Valentine's Day. Stay tuned to hear their cutie patootie answers. And in some cases where we befuddled them when we asked about what color you might wear on Valentine's Day, that proved to be a tough question. And then later to serious news. We will get the latest on the public inquiry into the Winnipeg Police Headquarters. More from CBC's Bartley Kivas. He will be in studio with us on former Winnipeg Mayor Sam Cates and his first day of testimony yesterday. Right now, Riley Lachuk is actually filling in for Heather Wells, so he's here with our news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Opponents of a proposed bylaw restricting protests say if passed, it would effectively outlaw demonstrations in a wide area of the city. That bylaw would restrict so-called nuisance protests within 100 meters of schools, cultural centers, and other designated sites. We'll hear from some of those opponents coming up in your next news. And Manitoba is getting 6 new liaison workers tasked with supporting families at risk of losing their children to CFS. The positions are being created by the provincial government in partnership with United Way Winnipeg. I'll have more local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Into the weather now. Abby has details on, as I've been alluding to, is going to be another warm day.
Yeah, Marcy, we're anticipating a quiet and mainly sunny start across the southern regions today, while the north still dealing with periods of snow and localized wind chills towards the Churchill area. If we look at conditions in the Winnipeg area right now, we're tracking -7 at the Forks and -11 at the airport. I call it 7-11 weather this morning, but not slurpy weather. Clear skies, and we're looking for a mini sunny day. We warm up to -1 later in the day. Across the southern regions, we're seeing -6 and -14 towards the Barons River this morning. But most of the regions will see temperatures some areas might get as close as high of 3 degrees later. But up north, we're looking at -8 and -23. That's what we're tracking there. Churchill is actually at -21. -1 at this time with a wind chill close to -33. For Winnipeg right now, we're tracking -7 and -11.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
On the morning commute, Corey?
Yeah, a really quiet commute so far. Actually, haven't heard of any major issues out there. But if you are walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see some, you give me a call on the CBC commuter line, particularly if you're winter biking today. Reminder, it is International Winter Bike to Work Day today. And actually, folks from Bike Winnipeg have set up some hot chocolates right at the corner of Assiniboine and Gary, that along that bike lane there. So at Bonnycastle Park, you can go check that out if you want, some free hot chocolate. And you don't have to be biking either to get it. They said anyone can stop on by. If you do have anything else you want to let me know about, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, Valentine's Day is this weekend, and that means that traditionally it's a day for chocolates and cards and romantic gestures toward these special people in our lives. But where did the idea for this day come from? Here to talk about that is actually our faith contributor, John Longhurst. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So tell us about the religious origins of Valentine's Day.
Well, it certainly does have religious origins. In fact, the saint whose day we are marking on that Valentine's Day of love and romance and dinners and wine was beaten and beheaded. And that's why we remember him, because he gave his life for his faith. He was Saint Valentine, and he was a church leader in Rome in the 3rd century. And he was executed on February 14 for his faith in the year 270 by Emperor Claudius II. Because he refused to worship the emperor, which was required at that time. He refused to worship the emperor because Christians believed they should only worship Jesus and not the emperor. And that was seen as disloyalty to the empire. So he was executed, and about 200 years later, he was canonized by the Catholic Church. And February 14 was chosen as his official feast day, a day to remember his willingness to die for his faith in Jesus. Later, in later centuries, stories and legends arose about St. Valentine that led to the idea of romance and love. And one of them was that he defied the emperor's order that soldiers could not be married. He performed secret weddings. Another was that his jailer's daughter was blind, and he healed her, and he sent her a letter just before he died that said, "From your Valentine." So there we have it.
How did we go, though, from a historic Christian feast day to, the wide way that Valentine's Day is celebrated today?
So we have Geoffrey Chaucer to thank for that, the poet in England in the 14th century. He wrote a poem that linked St. Valentine's Day to courtly love. It was about birds choosing their mates on that day. And then we get into the 15th century, and then the first known Valentine is a romantic letter sent by a prisoner in the Tower of London to his wife in 1415. And then the practice of sending Valentines to your loved ones became more and more common and popular after that. By the 17th century, it was common for lovers to send each other tokens of affection on February 14. And by the 19th century, that's when commercial printing makes it possible to mass-produce cards to send these kinds of things in Victorian England. But that's also the time we get chocolate. And of course, what would Valentine's Day be without chocolate? That's when the Cadbury Company in England makes the first Valentine's-themed chocolates. But things really took off in the 20th century. That's when the Hall Brothers Printing in Kansas City realized that they could mass produce and make a lot of money by selling cards at Valentine's. Well, the Halls Brothers are Hallmark, which we now know today, which not only make cards, but make romantic movies as well. But those aren't the only businesses that make money and make a lot of business on Valentine's. There's those who sell chocolates and candy and flowers and jewelry and gifts and wine. There's even, and this isn't my taste, there's even a pickle bouquet.
Like dill pickles?
Yes, that you can order for Valentine's Day. So they've all found ways to monetize and commercialize the feast day of a saint who was beheaded So there you go.
I actually know someone who would like that pickle bouquet.
There you go.
Valentine's Day today has been, as you've outlined, completely taken over, really, by secular society. Does anyone still remember its origins?
Yes. Some denominations, some churches still do. Roman Catholics, Anglicans, Lutherans, and Eastern Orthodox Christians, they still recognize it as a feast day, but it's a minor one. It's not a major one in the church's liturgical calendar. But the idea of love still, of course, permeates everything about Christianity, whether it's love for partners, for families, for society, for neighbors. It's the idea that Jesus is a supreme example of love, having given his life for humanity.
What about other religions then, John? Do they have anything similar to Valentine's Day?
A couple of them do, yes. So for Judaism, it's Tu B'Av, which is sometimes called the Jewish Valentine's Day. It's an ancient festival associated with matchmaking and marriage, and it's very popular in Israel. Meanwhile, Hindus have a festival celebrating Kama, which is their god of love, and it emphasizes love for family, community, and humanity. Other religions don't have anything like this. Buddhism and Islam, for example, don't have any specific day devoted to romantic love or anything like that. Rather, they emphasize love for partners, family, and others all year round.
And what other religious days have been taken over by society? I imagine there are some.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And let's start with Christmas. That's the most obvious one, right? With its gifts and trees and lights and Santa. But then there's Easter with its bunnies and chocolate and eggs. And of course, we have All Hallows Eve on October 31, which is literally the evening before All Saints' Day, which is the day when the church has historically remembered all the saints who have died, been martyred because of their faith. And of course, we know it as Halloween, and that's when we trick or treat. And let's not forget St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day is a day when some people like to drink and celebrate all things Irish. But of course, it was originally created to honor the saint who brought Christianity to Ireland. But there are a few special Christian feast days that have escaped commercialization, and they haven't been able to be monetized for any reason. That would include things like Epiphany and Pentecost, Ash Wednesday, and Good Friday, although on Good Friday we all appreciate a day off from work. But unlike Valentine's Day, nobody's figured out a way to make money off them yet.
All right, John, thanks for the column this week.
Thank you.
I spoke with our faith contributor, John Longhurst, last week all about Valentine's Day and its connection to faith. And Valentine's Day, of course, coming up tomorrow. But what is starting tonight is Festival de Bons Voyageurs. So hey ho and bon festival to everybody out there. Always a really good time. We heard yesterday on the show how they're going to having all kinds of really cool things. They forged these rods they're going to be sticking in beer to have burnt beer, for example. That's just one of the nighttime things. But if you are heading out beyond the family fun in the daytimes, you also might be catching some really good music and maybe some new music. We have new music this morning from Winnipeg's Mise en Scène. The band's made up of a best friend duo, Steph and Jody. You might have heard them before. But they made up this project while studying fine arts together. So they are playing today, actually. They're doing a Fleetwood Mac tribute show at Festival. But we wanted to play one of their newest songs. So from Mise en Scène, this is Creature of Comfort.
You're gonna drag me through your head, 'cause it's better when I'm there. Creature of comfort, you live in my favorite chair. All stones unturned, all stones unturned for you, for you.
Mise en scène from Winnipeg. They're going to be playing tonight at Festival de Voyageurs. If you want to check it out, their plan is to do a Fleetwood Mac tribute show. Festival kicks off tonight. Of course, you're going to see people walking down the avenue and getting ready to open the park. And then thus begins a beautiful weekend of all the food, snow sculptures, celebration of culture, and all good things that Festival brings to the community. Really nice that it's staying warm. I know maybe not for the snow sculptures, but hopefully they won't melt too much and it'll be just that perfect temperature so you can enjoy it with the family with all the events going on. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on CBC. Traffic's been fine. Call us if not. 788-3093. Watch for commuters. It is International Winter Bike to Work Day, so you might see additional folks out giving it a shot. And why not? Because it's only -7 downtown. Pretty nice day for that as well. Clear Sky News coming up at 7:30. And right now on 89.3 FM, it is time for Olympic Update.
Danny Casper. One yellow, and you hear a good game. So Canada with the win 6-3 over the USA to move to 2-0.
It is day 7 in Milano Cortina, and it's already off to a winning start for Canada. Good morning, I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic Games report. As you heard, that win came on the pebbled ice, where Brad Jacobs topped the U.S. It moves Jacobs to 2-0, with his next game coming this afternoon against Sweden. CBC Olympic curling commentator Bruce Rainey joins me now. And Bruce, a pretty solid showing from the Jacobs rink today.
I would say so. U.S. by average age, the youngest team here. Canada by average age, the oldest. And the skip has come into play. 40-year-old Brad Jacobs out of Sault Ste. Marie. Through 2 games, he's curling well over 90%. He made a shot today in the 4th end that would be a highlight reel shot in any bonspiel, let alone the pressure of an Olympic Games. So when your skip is that on, you're going to win some curling games, and Brad Jacobs is on.
Some will look at Brad Jacobs and think back to Sochi and the gold medal run there. What are we seeing this time out that might remind you of the experience in Russia?
Well, I think in Russia he became the leader he is today. There was a defining moment in that tournament against China where he challenged his team. He said, let's keep playing. We can win this game, when his team was a bit droopy in terms of body language. And he set the tone there, and he refers to that as a defining moment in his leadership voyage. And you're seeing a leader here. He's a guy you'd want to play for if you were a curler, and his teammates just love him.
Now, the next challenge, on paper, right now at least, doesn't look too formidable, but that 0-2 record of Sweden may be a bit misleading.
You know, in sports, you should never wake the sleeping giant. We've heard that, right? So Sweden is 0-2. They have not looked good, but this is the defending Olympic gold medalist. Nicholas Edin has won bronze, silver, and gold in curling. At age 40, is he on the downside? Perhaps, but Jacobs knows you don't wake this guy up. So Sweden at 0-2, Canada at 2-0. Canada, I think, playing better now, but you just never know. That's why they go out and throw the rocks.
Well, we shall see. Thanks so much, Bruce.
Pleasure. Thank you.
CBC Olympic curling commentator Bruce Rainey. That Canada-Sweden match goes at 1:05 Eastern Time, and as for Canada's women's team, Rachel Homan is facing the U.S. right now. Things are scoreless in the second end. To the slopes now.
The finish line is in sight, and McManaman's going to miss out in 3rd place.
That's Quebec's Audrey McManaman in snowboard cross. She was in it till the very end, but was just beaten to the finish line by her French and American competitors. Only the top 2 go through to this morning's final. That is the music the man known as the Quad God will skate to for the men's free skate today in Milano. Ilya Malinin of the U.S. is the gold medal favorite if he can land everything. Canada's Stephen Gogolev will also be on the ice. My Olympic Report co-host, Sonali Karnik, has more on what to watch for. Good morning, Sonali.
Okay, so Malinin actually gave himself the nickname when he changed his Instagram handle to Ilya_QuadGod Malinin because he was able to successfully land quad jumps. I've tried to sort of cross-reference this, and that's kind of what everybody says. He's the first skater to land a quadruple axel, the most difficult jump in figure skating. In his free skate today, Scott, he has 7 quad jumps planned.
Wow.
With the last 3 jumps that start a combo. He has completed this program successfully before this season. And Scott, he's only 21 years old. This is not his last Olympics.
Wow, quite something. Now, what about Toronto's Stephen Gogolev, Sonali? What does he have planned for the free skate?
He's also opening with quad jumps, 3 to start his program. And Gogolev is a breakout star in Canada after winning the national championships. His performance in the team event in Milano helped push Canada into the final round. And Gogolev came in 10th after the short program. He's up against some very stiff competition to get a medal, but we've already seen what he can do under pressure. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in the free skate.
We'll be watching. Thanks so much, Sonali.
Thanks, Scott.
My Olympic Report co-host, Sonali Karnik. Well, after Canada's big haul yesterday, no medals are expected today. This is day 7, and that's exactly how many podium finishes the country's managed so far. So well behind the 12 medals Canada had won at this stage of the last games in Beijing. Still, we're not even at the halfway point yet in Milano Cortina. That is your Olympic Games report. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Riley Lachuk in Winnipeg at 7:30. Mainly clear, -11 in the city this hour. Light southwest wind. We are looking at a mix of sun and clouds across the south. Mainly sunny in the city today. Our high -1. A Winnipeg man wants hospitals to reevaluate how patients are paired together in shared rooms. It comes after Tony Capizzi says his 94-year-old mother was attacked by a man who tried to smother her with a towel in their shared room at St. Boniface Hospital last month. Hospital staff intervened and stopped the attack, but Capizzi says his mother shouldn't have been put in that situation.
One of the staff members told me that this guy is a repeat customer. This individual should be jailed or should be in the psychiatric ward because he's always here. So why would they put a person like this with a 94-year-old woman?
Winnipeg police charged a 49-year-old man with assault in connection to the incident. Capizzi's mom died a week later. Her death was unrelated to the incident. Former Winnipeg Mayor Sam Cates says he is offended by people who think he was involved in a bribe by the contractor of Winnipeg's police headquarters. That's what the inquiry into the construction of the police HQ heard yesterday. It is the first time Cates has talked about the issue since a judge ruled former CAO Phil Schiegel accepted a bribe for $327,000 from Caspian Construction. Schiegel and Cates say that money was payment for a real estate transaction in Arizona, which they split. Here is how Cates ended his testimony.
I'm offended and disappointed that, I take great offense to that. To me, the key thing in life is your reputation and your credibility. And I can tell you that council, which I'm part of, we got a lot of things done that needed to be done in those 10 years. And for someone to imply that, it hurts.
Schiegel was ordered to pay the city compensation. He will testify at the inquiry next week. You can hear more about Cates' testimony at the inquiry with the CBC's Bartley Kivas here on Information Radio in about 20 minutes. The federal government's special benefit legislation has received royal assent, clearing the way for a GST benefit top-up this spring. Canadians who qualify for the GST check are getting a boost worth 50% of the credit. The government says it will help more than 12 million Canadians with a family of 4 in line to see up to $1,800 this year. Opponents of Winnipeg's proposed protest buffer zone bylaw are calling the city's measure an attack on free expression. The bylaw would create 100-meter buffer zones around schools, places of worship, and other sites, restricting what the city calls nuisance protests. Cam Scott helped organize a meeting last night at West End Commons. He feels the language in the draft bylaw is troubling.
We're terribly concerned about the threat it poses, not just to protest, but to public gatherings of all types. Even the name nuisance protest insults people's civic engagement and their will to come together over any number of causes.
Supporters, including Councillor Evan Duncan, say the intent is to prevent intimidation, not peaceful protest. The measure will be debated at Executive Policy Committee next week. Manitoba is getting 6 new liaison workers tasked with supporting families at risk of losing their children to CFS. The positions are being created by the provincial government in partnership with United Way Winnipeg. It is part of a shift in care aimed at helping families keep custody of their children. Manitoba's Foster Parent Association President Jamie Fow says liaisons can help families mitigate risk factors and keep children out of the foster care system.
We see the results when children are apprehended. They are way less likely to graduate high school, more likely to become pregnant at an earlier age, more likely to be charged with a crime, more likely to be homeless.
The province says liaisons have also helped out 100 families in Manitoba to gain or regain custody of their children since 2021. One person was taken to hospital in critical condition after a fire in West Broadway last evening. The blaze broke out in a home near Yonge and Broadway just after 5:30. Firefighters rescued the person from the home while a second person and a firefighter were taken to hospital in stable condition. The fire remains under investigation. And St. Fidel Shopping Centre has new owners. Montreal-based real estate firm Layad has bought the mall for just over $160 million. The 1 million square foot shopping centre attracts some 8 million visitors annually. You can find more local news anytime at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, this weekend is bound to be busy, as I've been mentioning, with Festival, and then, of course, Valentine's Day, you might be out and about, and maybe just enjoy some of the nice weather. Not as foggy of a start, nowhere near to what we had yesterday, Abby.
No, Marcy, but we will definitely enjoy the mild conditions in the southern part of the province. It feels like early spring, but it's just those, wonderful conditions that some areas down south might even see +2 today. So I'll take that. But up north, we're still seeing snowy conditions with periods of snow and colder wind chills coming your way. For Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, currently hovering between -6 and -11 at this time. Clear skies we have this morning. The temperatures hover between -9 and -3 all morning before we get to a high of -1 on the mainly sunny sky. So it's lots of sunshine in Winnipeg today. For the Pembina Valley region, similar conditions, -6 at the time, mainly sunny skies expected today. You head to a high close to 3 degrees in that part of the province later today. In the Brandon area, we're looking at -13, clear skies. You climb to sunny high of 1 with light breeze. Parkland region, Dauphin is at -11 and clear, expecting a sunny day, high also 3 expected by the afternoon. Gimli, we're looking at -14 at this time, clear to start the day. You reach a mainly sunny high of -1 later. Winds become breezy at some point with the winds changing direction to the southeast. We move to the powerful influence surrounding communities where we're seeing temperatures steady around -9 at this time. You warm to 0 under a mix of sun and clouds. Thompson towards Nelson House, we're looking at -8 and cloudy conditions. A slim chance of light snow this morning before clearing, high near -2. To Lily Lake, we're looking at -15 with some snow in that part of the province. You see highs near -5. And for Churchill, we're looking at -22 at this time. Light snowfall in there. You also get to about -5 today, but the wind chills makes it feel like -26.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk?
Yeah, been a pretty quiet commute actually so far. Haven't heard of any major issues out there, but reminder to folks that it is International Winter Bike to Work Day, which actually started here in Winnipeg in 2013. So there is a crew of folks actually with Bike Winnipeg down at the corner of Assiniboine and Gary, handing out hot chocolate until 9 a.m. this morning. We chatted with Patty Weems, the bike mayor, earlier on today all about it. So if you want to stop by for hot chocolate, you don't have to be on a bike to get it either. They're just happy to say hi to folks. Other than that, though, yeah, you can give me a call on the commuter line if you see what's going on. If you want to give me an update on what you're seeing on the bike lanes, on the roads, on the trails even. Maybe your favorite ski trail. You can give me a call, 204-788-3093.
So let me ask you this. You have little kids. How old are they now?
3 and 1.5.
What does it feel like when they say, I love you?
Oh my God. It's like, it melts my heart. And it's, especially when it's unprompted, like every once in a while, especially our little guy, 3-year-old, Callum, he'll like come up and just grab my leg and give me a hug and say, I love you, Dad. And out of nowhere. And you're just like, it's so genuine. And it just feels so good.
We're going to give everyone a little taste of that feeling right now because, as you might know, February is I Love to Read month. This week, that led me over to visit some of the littlest Winnipeggers at Sunshine and Rainbow Rooms in Lord Roberts Children's Preschool programs here in Winnipeg. So the kids there range in age from 18 months old to 5 years old. Then, boy, they were so cute. I can't even explain it. So you will, as I said, get a treat, especially if you're watching our YouTube stream of the morning show, because you'll see the kids, but they sound just as adorbs. After a couple of stories that I read to them and a few dozen little ones rolling around on the rug at my feet, I thought I would hit them up with some questions about Valentine's Day. Guys, ready? We've read a few books today. This is better, guys. Do you know what we get to do again? What's your name?
I'm Spencer.
Spencer, how old are you?
I'm 4.
4?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, what color do people normally wear on Valentine's Day, you think?
A true red.
Oh, a true red. Okay, not just like a fake red, like a real red. Yeah. Is this a real red? This color here that I got?
Yeah, it's a lot red.
It has to be that red. Okay. Do you love anybody or any pets?
I love everybody.
You love everybody. Thank you, Spencer. Okay, who wants to talk next? You coming over? Come on over, Kaylee. Kaylee, how old are you?
3.
You're 3. Wow. What do you think love is?
I don't know.
Do you love anybody?
Ivy's my friend.
Okay. And do you love anybody else in your life?
No, only Ivy. And my family I love, but also Ivy. I only love those 2.
Okay, yeah. I get that, yeah. Yeah. How old are you, Simon?
2.
2? What color do we wear on Valentine's Day?
Chocolate flushy.
Chocolate flushy. You know, that was a secondary answer. Sometimes people wear chocolate flushy. Sometimes red. Okay. Who else wants to tell me who they love?
Me.
Okay, come on over. You go first, then we go second. What's your name?
Lucas.
How old are you?
3.
3? Wow. And who do you love?
My mommy.
Oh, that's a good answer. What's your name, little one? You keep thinking. Louie. How old are you, Louie?
10.
How old are you?
2.
Are you helping your friend? Is Louie 2?
Me.
Yeah, you're 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what were you saying about chocolates and candies?
Yeah.
What were you saying about them?
I say candies for trick-or-treating.
Okay. Candies for trick-or-treating, and on Valentine's Day too, like always candies.
Yeah, always candy.
Yeah. And what kind of candies do you think?
All of them.
All the candies.
Happy Valentine's Day! There we go.
Thank you, guys. Yay!
I love you.
And I love you at the end, even from Spencer there. Those are some of the adorable kids over at the Sunshine and Rainbow Rooms and Lord Roberts Children's Preschool Programs in Winnipeg. Thanks so much, Mary Swain, who's been such a long time, worker in our childhood educational centers in Winnipeg. So many people know Mary. I think she was honored for her work. She's worked like over 35 years with kids. She invited me to read there to the kids. And videographer Travis Gold came to shoot their cutie patooties. The kids you heard there, by the way, Spencer, Kaylee, Simon, Lucas, Louie, and Claire.
It's time to get loud, Canada, because Milano Cortina 2026 isn't just on your screen. It's happening across the country, and you're invited to join the celebration. CBC is hosting free live events packed with family fun, games, and activities, and full-on Team Canada energy. So get off the couch, come on down, and let's celebrate the games together. To find events near you, visit cbc.ca/experiences.
Well, we are celebrating the games and also covering the action every morning here on CBC because, as you heard, we are the broadcaster. So every morning at 25 past the hour, you get the very latest. So that's coming up next at 8:25. Hope you're here with us still. Hopefully your Friday's going well so far. Thanks for making us part of your day. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio. Jenica Sewell, as well as Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and we also have Darren Marash, busy control room today. In Winnipeg, a nice mild start to the day, as we've been hearing, and what will be sunny today and a high of -1. Still ahead, we will have Bartley Kivas in studio to talk to us and through what happened yesterday as former Winnipeg Mayor Sam Cates testified in the Winnipeg Police Headquarters public inquiry. So Bartley's been covering this not just yesterday, but for many, many years leading up to this. So he'll be in with the latest and the context of what was said as well. Right now, though, let's have a little bit of music. Manitoba-based Desiree Dorian's back with a brand new collaborative single. It does feature fellow Juno nominees Burnstick. So this track is a storytelling piece. It's centered on her lifelong curiosity, she says, about her father's ink, which is really timely because I do believe we've got the tattoo show coming up. The Manitoba Tattoo Expo is next weekend in Assiniboine Downs. This one's called, I've lost the title here. This is from her album Pieces of Me. It's called Daddy's Tattoo.
And faded. If you could talk, what would you say? Would you be ashamed or jaded? Or tell me how you learned from your mistakes? You've been there for 35 years. You felt the rage and caught the tears. You hurt like hell, but the pain felt good. Your dark blue lines brought you brotherhood. Ooh, Daddy's tattoo. Ooh, Daddy's tattoo. Straight lines, a little rough, make the shape of the name of your first love. You felt ashamed and unworthy. You can't erase it by covering it up. Shapeshifter like a troubadour, drift till you change your face so no one will see you. You hurt some more, but you see it through. Shades of red covering up the blue. Ooh, Daddy's tattoo. Ooh, Daddy's tattoo. Daddy's tattoo. Ooh, Daddy's tattoo. Memories fade, but stories remain. That's all we are at the end of the day. You can hide your mistakes, but they don't go away. Scars on skin are superficial anyway. Ooh, Daddy's tattoo. 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 Ooh, Daddy's tattoo.
Desiree Dorian with Daddy's Tattoo from her upcoming album Pieces of Me. That single, by the way, is available everywhere today. Time right now is 12 minutes to 8 o'clock on 89.3 FM. And coming up on the show after 8 o'clock, more on this story from the news. Winnipeg police saying a 49-year-old man has been charged now after a very serious assault in a Winnipeg hospital room. We're going to hear more from the elderly victim's son. And so stay tuned as we learn more. This story is about someone attempting to suffocate their 94-year-old mother in her hospital room, as you've been hearing in the news. Well, also in the news today, the fourth day of the Winnipeg Police Headquarters public inquiry kicks off today. Yesterday, the entire day was set aside for testimony from Sam Cates. He was Winnipeg's mayor from 2004 to 2014. This is the first time Cates has spoken since a court determined Winnipeg's former CAO accepted a bribe from the contractor on the mega project. CBC reporter Bartley Kivas is in studio to catch us up on some details. Bartley's been covering this story since back in 2006, so naturally he's been assigned to cover this. Hi, Bartley.
Good morning.
So remind us what this inquiry was called for in the first place.
So back in the Brian Bowman years at City Hall, Council asked for an inquiry into a number of things that happened during the last term when Sam Cates was in office, not just with the Winnipeg Police Headquarters project, but with a number of other capital construction projects and real estate transactions involving the city. The Pallister government declined, the Stephenson government declined, the Canoe government said yes, but the terms of the reference is strictly the Police Headquarters project. That is the project we know the most about because it's already been the subject of a full audit of the project, partially the subject of the real estate audit the city had in 2014. There was a 5-year RCMP investigation that dug up a lot of documentation, and then a pair of city lawsuits, one against Caspian Construction, which has been settled, and most of the money is forthcoming. And the other one that you mentioned is determined that Phil Schiegel, the former CAO, received a $327,200 bribe from Armic Babakanians, the principal of Caspian Construction, for showing favor for Caspian in the bidding process. So these are some of the issues here. This isn't just a story about cost overruns, although there were $79 million of project scope and cost increases, or of the delays, but of trying to, the terms of reference called by the Canoe government was saying, let's look at what happened and see how process can be fixed and changed. And the city has changed some processes, but primarily this inquiry will probably eventually, the stated goal is to find out what else could or should be done.
And when it comes to what happened, a full day was dedicated to hearing from former Winnipeg Mayor Sam Cates, as I mentioned, his testimony. Why was he called to testify?
Well, Cates was called to testify because he was mayor at the time. And after the Court of King's Bench determined that Schiegel accepted a bribe. He appealed, and in 2023, the Court of Appeal determined. It was the Court of King's Bench that determined the bribe. The Court of Appeal determined the next year that while Sam Cates is not accused of any wrongdoing and is not the subject of that particular lawsuit, he was party to what took place. And Justice Christopher Manella said that Cates received half the money that Schiegel received. So a lot of what happened yesterday was discussions about Cates' relationship with Mr. Schiegel, questions about Cates' relationship with Mr. Babakanians, and asking questions. At the end, he received questions from his own counsel. We'll get to that in a bit.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned Cates was grilled by the city lawyer on what he knew about former CAO Phil Schiegel accepting money from a construction firm that he was negotiating with as well, with the police headquarters. So what did he say?
Well, Phil Schiegel spoke about that check. Now, let's get into certain details here. There was a $200,000 check that was provided by Armic Babakanians to a company that he owned, and then to a company that Phil Schiegel owned, and then half of that money was in a separate check later on provided to Sam Cates. The check that went to Schiegel for $200,000, that was 2 days after City Council in July 2011 determined that Phil Schiegel had the ability to delegate a contract award. An award of a contract that was initially worth $137 million to Caspian Construction. So this was the timing of that. This was a lot of questions about what took place, what Sam knew about the cost increases, and whether or he was aware of what was being discussed at the time with Mr. Babakanians in discussions with the city and potentially with Mr. Schiegel.
Okay. Now, you actually do have some tape from this yesterday, right?
So city lawyer Michael Finlayson at one point is interested in he's asking Sam Cates about, Phil was, a quote, at one point, a good friend of Sam, and in his own words, he was asking why Cates didn't sort of ask Phil to disclose that he had this relationship with Armick Babakanians.
Did you ever say to Mr. Shiegel, hey, Phil, you're the deputy CAO or the CAO, you should tell council or executive policy committee that you just received money from somebody we're negotiating with in connection with $100 million plus contract? Did you ever have that discussion with Mr. Shiegel?
No, sir.
Why not?
Just never entered my mind.
Never entered your mind.
How did Cates respond when asked about his relationship then with CAO Phil Shiegel?
Cates said that he's drifted away from Phil, who was his good friend, but he did praise Phil's work as CEO, saying that he worked hard on the police headquarters project.
Now, part of yesterday's testimony was looking into his relationship as well with Armick Babakanians of Caspian Construction, the contractor for the Winnipeg Police Headquarters. And what did we hear there?
Well, Cates said that he had golfed with Armick Babakanians a couple of times. He said he didn't recall a meeting that was slated for 2010 at Steakhouse 529 Wellington. This was 2010, well before the contract was awarded. Cates said he was only later aware that he and Shiegel and Armick Babakanians were co-investors in land in Arizona in a place called Tartesso. Now, that Court of King's Bench decision in 2022 determined that this Arizona land deal was a concoction created to explain the bribe to Phil Shiegel. The appeal court, as I mentioned, said that although Cates isn't accused of any wrongdoing, it did note that he received half the money. Now, Cates' lawyer, Danny Gunn, at the end of the day, asked the former mayor how it feels to have an implication that he had something to do with this.
Was this a bribe being paid to you by Armick Babakanian on behalf of Caspian?
Definitely not.
You spent 10 years of your life working for the city. How does that make you feel to be accused of something like that?
Trying to use the right words here. I'm offended and disappointed that, I take great offense to that. To me, the key thing in life is your reputation and your credibility. And I can tell you that council, which I'm part of, we got a lot of things done that needed to be done in those 10 years. And for someone to imply that, it hurts, but, you got to deal with it, people are throwing punches at you all the time. You do something, half the population loves it, half doesn't. So, there's always going to be that type of scenario. But no, I'm extremely disappointed and offended that anybody would think that would be anything but what it was, a sale of an interest in a piece of property.
I'm curious, Bartley, what stood out to you about Sam Cates' testimony yesterday in terms of how was his demeanor?
Sam Cates walked in and was his usual charming self. He walked in, he smiled, he joked around with reporters. He was somber in that passage that we just heard, but he certainly seemed confident.
Who's left to testify then?
A lot of people. Sorry to laugh. There are 33 witnesses called over the course of 48 days that stretch out until the end of, or till June. Next week, Armick Babakanians and Phil Shiegel are slated to speak.
All right, thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Bartley Kivas, reporter for CBC Manitoba. You can read about the inquiry on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba this morning. Still ahead on the show after 8, please stay with us because we're going to hear more about what Riley's been mentioning in the news. Winnipeg police saying a 49-year-old man has been charged after a serious assault in a Winnipeg hospital room. So we're going to hear from the elderly victim's son coming up. And Riley's in right now with one quick headline as well and another story. Good morning.
Good morning. Opponents of Winnipeg's proposed buffer zone bylaw are calling the city's measure an attack on free expression. That bylaw would create 100-meter buffer zones around schools, places of worship, and other sites, restricting what the city calls nuisance protests. I'll have more on that after World Report.
And I think I screwed up my timing, so we do have time for you to preview another story if
Okay,
you
well,
want.
Manitoba is getting 6 new liaison workers tasked with supporting families at risk of losing their children to CFS. The positions are being created by the provincial government in partnership with the United Way, part of a shift in care aimed at helping families keep custody of their children. So I'll have more on that coming up at 8:30 as well in our next news.
I'm glad we got that in. Really high interest, of course, those new positions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we do have to go to Corey, though, because there's been traffic issues.
Just got a call from Claire on the commuter line. The westbound south perimeter, right at St. Anne's, a car stalled right in the intersection there, causing some backup. So kind of tough to get around. That's westbound south perimeter, right on the intersection of Perimeter and St. Anne's.
All right. Sunny today in Winnipeg, -11. At the airport, -7. Downtown, our high today is -1. Still ahead also, we are going to announce the winner of our Valentine's Day swag contest. We've got a bag full of stuff for two. You've been calling with your meet cute stories, and boy, they have been cute. So we'll play the remainder of the calls and announce our winner after 8.
Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll first made waves with their cult web series turned TV show, Nirvana, the Band, the Show.
Hold on. I thought didn't you just say we're not switching the plan no matter what?
And 15 years later, they're taking it to the big screen. They're here to talk about their new film, Nirvana, the Band, the Show, the Movie.
Q, this morning at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Rebecca Zandbergen. The Russian flag hasn't flown at the Olympics in years after doping scandals and the invasion of Ukraine. But Olympic officials are hinting the country could be at the next Games. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. The RCMP now know the identities of all 8 people shot and killed in Tumbler Ridge, BC. The victims include an educator, a mother, and 6 children as young as 11. They're being remembered by their families as vibrant and caring people who've left an unimaginable hole in the community. Tumbler Ridge will gather for another vigil tonight, joined by Prime Minister Mark Carney. Tanya Fletcher is following the developments. Tanya, what more can you tell us about the Prime Minister's visit today?
Well, he'll be joined by his federal counterparts, the leaders of the other parties as well, we understand. This was an invite by the Tumbler Ridge mayor, according to a statement from the Prime Minister's office. So besides Prime Minister Mark Carney, we'll likely see Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet, NDP interim leader Don Davies, and Green Party leader Elizabeth May. The latter two, by the way, both from BC. So they're all expected to attend.
Tanya, can you give us an update on the 2 people who are critically injured?
Yeah, so as we know, 2 of the victims were airlifted from the school to hospital with significant injuries. One of them was 12-year-old Maya Gabella. She is currently in intensive care at BC Children's in Vancouver, and we spoke to her parents outside the hospital late yesterday. Maya's mother says she knew the shooter, Jesse, quite well and actually used to be their babysitter. She went on to say she doesn't want this shooting to be politicized, but rather focused on what the community needs.
It's not about guns. It's not about transgenderism. It's about mental health. It's about a lack of resources.
And a glimmer of hope as well for her daughter. She mentioned that, she moved a finger yesterday, so they were really hanging on to hope that she's going to pull through. As for the other victim airlifted with serious injuries, that was a 19-year-old female who is also still recovering in the hospital. We're unclear where she is at this point.
CBC's Tanya Fletcher joining us from Vancouver. Thanks, Tanya.
You bet.
Canada's military police watchdog has sharply criticized the handling of a sexual assault investigation where the suspect took his own life. Air Force officer Christian Heistand died in January 2022, 6 weeks after being charged. The Military Police Complaints Commission now says the investigation into Heistand was flawed. CBC's Murray Brewster explains.
it was an incompetent investigation.
Rory Fowler is a former military lawyer now in private practice. He represents the family of Major Christian Heistand. In the weeks leading up to his death in January 2022, Heistand told his family no one would listen to his side of the story. CBC News first reported on the case in the spring of 2023. Heistand was charged with assaulting a woman with whom he had just ended a long-term affair. In a new report, the chair of the Military Police Complaints Commission, Tammy Tremblay, found military police did not conduct an impartial and thorough investigation, and overall there was a rush to judgment and confirmation bias. The investigation was also, Tremblay said, not properly supervised, with one military police officer showing up drunk on the night the assault was reported. Tremblay declined a CBC News interview request. Fowler says what makes this worse is an internal review into the conduct of military police officers cleared them.
And when somebody finally called them out for their incompetence, the military police were quick to say, nothing wrong here. And even after the Military Police Complaints Commission identified multiple interrelated shortcomings, Canadian Forces Provost Marshal continues to stick her head in the sand.
The Canadian Forces Provost Marshal has refused almost all of the more than dozen recommendations from the Complaints Commission and has not delivered a comment about the findings. Marie Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Overseas, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party wins the country's election by a landslide. It now holds a large majority in parliament. The result, a huge change of fortune for the BNP's leader, Tariq Rahman. He recently returned from self-imposed exile in Britain. This is the first election since the 2024 student-led protests ended the 15-year rule of Sheikh Hasina. More than 1,400 people died in the uprising. Hasina, who is accused of ordering the crackdown, remains in exile in India. A new crew is on its way to the International Space Station.
3, 2, 1, ignition. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon, and Godspeed Crew 12.
Some of the drama from Cape Canaveral this morning. The crew on board the SpaceX rocket includes NASA astronauts Jessica Meir and Jack Hathaway, along with colleagues from France and Russia. They're replacing the team that was forced to abort its mission last month. That crew returned early in what NASA's first medical evacuation from the ISS. Ontario is ending a 7-year tuition freeze on public colleges and universities. Starting this fall, schools can raise fees by 2% a year, and that has some students worried about the future of their education. Philip Lishanuk reports.
I don't think it's justifiable.
University of Toronto student Caitlin Chen worries some of her classmates won't be able to afford to stay in school.
Tuition is a really big hurdle that they have to get over.
In 2019, Ontario's progressive Conservative government capped tuitions for domestic students. Many universities and colleges turned to international students who paid considerably more to help balance their books. Minister of Colleges and Universities Nolan Quinn blamed the federal Liberals for ending that business model.
Unilateral changes, whether it's on the OSAP side or on the international student population, it has created pressure on the system.
Colleges and universities already slashed programs and laid off staff, but will now be able to raise tuition fees by up to 2% per year for the next 3 years. Quinn says that will cost students as much as $170 more a year. Ontario's Student Assistance Program will also offer fewer grants, making 75% of funding available as loans instead. Provincial Liberal leader John Fraser says the Ontario government created the problem, not the federal Liberals.
They starved colleges. They allowed colleges to rely on foreign students.
Ontario says tuition increases starting this fall will mean $6.4 billion more for post-secondary institutions. Philip Lishanuk, CBC News, Toronto.
EV sales are sputtering, but automakers insist the future is still electric. With the Toronto International Auto Show starting this morning, Nisha Patel gets a preview of what could recharge the market.
We see EV as the future of the business, but we need to make
At the Toronto International Auto Show, car makers are hoping to spark fresh interest in EVs. Stellantis Canada CEO Trevor Longley says Ottawa's consumer rebates might help. Starting next week, Canadians could get up to $5,000 to buy or lease battery-powered electric vehicles and as much as $2,500 for a plug-in hybrid.
And so we've already seen an increase in demand, especially on that Fiat 500e in Quebec, just with the word getting out that this is coming. And so interest in the products is high.
The EV market is in desperate need of a boost. Sales of new electric vehicles fell almost 40% in the third quarter of last year compared to the year before. Auto analyst JD Nye says price is a big barrier for consumers. Canadians paid an average of nearly $60,000 for an EV last year.
They all tend to kind of sit at the upper price range. And so when we start to see some more affordable electric vehicles hit the market, I think that'll be a big catalyst for sales growth.
Other concerns include range and charging infrastructure, so Nye says many car buyers have turned to plug-in hybrids.
And the plug-in electric hybrid just allows Canadians to, frankly, do most of their daily driving in all electric while maintaining the safety net of a gas-powered engine.
While early adopters have already made the switch to electric, mainstream customers still need some convincing. Nye says more than 40% of Canadians have yet to even test drive an electric car. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
And finally, the world's most influential security summit kicks off today, but under a cloud of uncertainty. Abhi Kugadasan explains.
Unilateral action, power politics, transactional pacts. This year's Munich Security Conference calls it wrecking ball politics, naming the United States as an unreliable ally. Natalie Tocci is a professor at Johns Hopkins School of International Advanced Studies in Italy. She says catastrophe could be useful, though, because when Trump demanded Greenland only a few weeks ago, Europeans did not bend.
The risk in Europe is that when the temperature slightly lowers, the risk is always that of falling back into complacency.
While the future of European strategic autonomy is being discussed over the next couple of days, the future of Ukraine will feature heavily.
People are suffering. It's the coldest time of year. It's unimaginable, the suffering.
Before he boarded his plane to Munich, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he expects to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Abhi Kugadasan for CBC News, Munich.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Hey everybody, how's your Friday going so far? Thanks for spending some time with us here at Information Radio. Looking forward to the long weekend. Louis Riel Day coming up on Monday in Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. And this is CBC 89.3 FM, as I mentioned, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Well, to serious matters that we've been covering in our news this morning, we're going to hear from a Winnipeg family. They want to see improvements around hospital safety after someone attempted to suffocate their 94-year-old mother in her hospital room. So we're going to hear more about that this half hour from The Sun, so stay tuned. Also to something very different, we are going to announce the winner of our Valentine's Day contest. We have a big bag of swag, double hats for two, there's mugs in there and socks, all this CBC stuff, super fun to wear with your sweetheart. To enter our contest, you had to call us with your meet cute story, and we've heard a lot of them. We'll get the final calls on today and tell you who we have randomly selected as our winner. We have Riley Lachuk in first, though, to talk about other stories that are developing today in our province. Good morning.
Good morning. Former Winnipeg Mayor Sam Cates says he is offended by people who think he was involved in a bribe by the contractor of Winnipeg's police headquarters. That is what the inquiry into the construction of the police HQ heard yesterday. It's the first time Cates has talked about the issue since a judge ruled former CAO Phil Schiegel accepted a bribe for $327,000. And one person was taken to hospital in critical condition after a fire in West Broadway last evening. Firefighters rescued a person from the home near Yonge and Broadway around 5:30 yesterday afternoon. A second person and a firefighter were also taken to hospital in stable condition. I'll have more local news for you coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Time for the forecast with Abby Adiemi.
It's now bright outside, Marcy. Mild end of the week across the province as sunshine dominates the southern part with lingering clouds and a bit of light snow as you travel further north of the province. But for Winnipeg right now, we're looking at -7 at some spots, -11 at some spots in the city. Expect a mainly sunny day as some areas still tracking fog patches that should clear, and we get to a high of -1 later. Across the southern regions, the Pembina Valley, the Westman, the Interlake region, we're seeing temperatures between -5 and -13. Brandon seeing freezing fog at this time, but the skies will clear for a beautiful sunny afternoon, and most of those regions will see about 2 degrees and 3 degrees. Further north, Thompson Churchill, temperatures hovering between -7 and -22s with light snow and cloudy conditions, though we're going to see some sunny breaks here and there up north, and highs would range between -2 and -14. So expect more like a quiet night ahead with clear skies, and lows would be around -8. But Saturday is going to be bringing a mix of sun and clouds and highs of -2 in the southern region. Winnipeg right now, we're tracking -11 at some spots in the city.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey.
Right now, a couple things to keep an eye out for. Just happened in the last 10 minutes or so. Southbound Henderson at Winterton, there's been a collision in the curb lane, so keep left to get around that. As well, northbound Pembina at Bison, the stalled truck right now, and that is in the turning lane, so that left turning lane, look out for that. Also got a call from Claire just about maybe 10 minutes or so ago, 10-15 minutes or so. Westbound South Perimeter, right and the intersection of St. Anne's, there is a stalled vehicle there that people are trying to get around, and as you can imagine, that's causing some backup, so look out for that as well if you're heading westbound South Perimeter this morning. Other than that, if you do see anything else going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, you can give me a call. That number, 204-788-3093.
Time right now is 8:14, and let's build on a story that's been in the news all morning, and it's on our website as well. It's about Maria Capizzi. She was assaulted by another patient while in care at St. Boniface Hospital. Now, she did die a week after that assault, but from unrelated causes. The family, though, as you can imagine, is asking, how did this happen? Tony Capizzi says his mother, Maria, was the kindest person you could ever hope to meet. She loved her family, loved cheering for the Winnipeg Jets, and celebrated her 94th birthday last September. In January, Maria's health started to decline. Her family took her to St. Boniface Hospital. Tony says his mother was in a single room for a few days, and she was transferred into a shared room with another patient. The next morning, Tony got a disturbing call from one of the nurses. He told CBC's Mike Arsenault about what happened and what he heard earlier this week.
Saturday morning, I get a call from a nurse at 9:30 in the morning, and she goes, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I've never seen anything like this. But your mother was assaulted. The patient next to her, it was a man, found out it was a man, tried to suffocate her with a towel. And we were going like, what? Like, it was just incredible news to hear. Like, we were just, we couldn't believe what we were hearing. He said, a nurse heard her screaming and went in there and stopped the incident. And so he was removed from the room right away. We went there right away to talk to the nurse, and then the assistant director and the unit manager came to talk to us and apologized and everything, and asked if we wanted to lay charges, and he said absolutely. So the incident was, they called the police. The incident was reviewed by the police. They went down and got a hold of the nurse that viewed the incident, and she made the report with the police. The police called me and told me that she told them everything, reported the incident, but she did not want to testify. So I'm not sure if she was afraid, why she didn't want to. So he says, we can't do anything because she doesn't want to testify. But then about 3 hours later, the officer phoned me back, and he said that he brought the incident up with his sergeant, and the sergeant said, no, we're going to press charges. So apparently this man was arrested and charged for, I'm not sure what the charges are exactly, they never told me, but he's been charged. But in the meantime, I feel, or our family feels like the system failed my mom. Like she wasn't in a safe environment. Like why would they put a person that could be violent or has substance abuse? Because one of the staff members told me that this guy is a repeat customer, and whatever that means, he told me that this individual should be jailed or should be in the psychiatric ward because he's always here. So why would they put a person like this with a 94-year-old woman that's in pain and moaning and groaning, and he didn't like the sounds and he tried to suffocate her? I mean, thank goodness he used the towel, because if he would have used a pillow, she would have been a goner right away. So from there, they brought her to the 7th floor, but he was still in the ward, apparently. Like, they moved him out of the room, but, like, why would a person that did this, why would he still be in the hospital? Why wouldn't they remove him from the hospital? If you and I went to a clinic and started abusing the doctor or nurse, they would kick us out, right? Like, but he was left there, and my mom was moved to a single room on the 7th floor, and unfortunately she had to be put in comfort care, and she passed on the 24th. But I would have expected that St. Boniface director would have notified our health minister and told them about the incident, because our family hasn't gotten a call from the premier or the minister. So very disappointed about that, and the policy has to change. Like, I don't know if it's got to be woman and woman in a room, or everybody's got to be, like, if they know that this person can be violent, like, do not put them with the general public, put them separately somewhere else.
Capizzi talking there. Now, the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority spokesperson said, quote, when a patient displays violent, aggressive, or reactive behavior, site leadership may implement a documented safety and care plan to help prevent or reduce risks, end quote. He is right, what Tony said. A 49-year-old man has been charged with assault in relation to the incident, but he's been released on a promise to appear in court. Police do confirm the man is known to them, but they didn't release his name or anything about previous incidents. You can read more online. 8:20 is the time right now. I'm Marcy Marcusa. It's -7 in Winnipeg. We've been there pretty much all morning long. Well, we asked for you to win a pack for Valentine's Day of CBC Swag to call with your meet cute stories. Here are the final calls.
Hi, this is Lori Barber. My meet cute story is I like a Hallmark movie of the week. I met my husband while we were each walking our dogs. My little dog didn't really like anybody, but she seemed to really like this guy. And eventually I found out that the reason she liked him so much was he had these homemade liver treats that he kept feeding her every time we bumped into each other at the park. And so when I found out about these treats, I asked my future husband, what's the recipe for these treats? And so the next time we saw each other at the park, he gave me the recipe, and of course his name and phone number were on the back. And I was at that place in my life where I was just like done with looking for someone, and I really was like, I was almost mad when I saw his phone number on there. And I decided to call him anyway, and I got his voicemail, and my message was something like, hi, this is Lori from the dog park. And so I was almost mad that it was there. And I'm like, I guess if you want to go on a date or something, call me back. And he called me, and then we ended up getting married about a year later. So that's my story. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Angela, and I just wanted to tell you about the Valentine story of my parents. So my dad, in the 80s, broke his shoulder working out and got sent to St. Boniface Hospital. And in the emergency department, my mom was his nurse. So that's how my parents met.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Kanikit. I'm calling to share my meet cute story. So my partner and I, Mo is their name. both in our traveling era in our early 20s, and we met on a little goat farm in Colorado that we had both signed up to work at for a few months. I remember our first real conversation at the farm was this farm had this like chore schedule. So one morning I was on Milk Mouse, so milking the goats, and they were on Dairy Mouse, which should have been making the cheese or processing the milk, but they assumed that Dairy Mouse was about milking the goats. Honestly, a fair assumption. So I was up in the morning and I took my buckets over to the goat barn, and they just kind of followed me over, and I didn't really understand what they were doing, and we crowded into this like really, really cramped little milking shed that they had that definitely barely fit a goat and a human, but definitely did not adequately fit 2 humans and a goat. And they were just kind of like watching me milk and asking me questions like I was supposed to be training them or something, which was not my job that morning. I just remember thinking, I don't know what you're doing here, but I don't know. I guess I'm not mad about it. Anyway, 14 years later, and an immigration application, and we both live here in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Hi, this is Laura McCusker, and I've got a meet cute story to tell you. In the 1980s, I was working at the Bureau de l'Éducation Française in charge of, as the coordinator of official languages programs. So as part of my duties, I had to find a monitor to come and replace one that didn't show up. These were people that were hired to provide support in schools. And so I had an application in front of me from someone from Quebec. So I gave the number a call. His mother answered. She said, "He's in the field. He'll call you back in 10 minutes. Sure enough, he called me back in 10 minutes, accepted the position, and a couple of days later, I went to the airport with a little sign with his name on it and picked him up. And so when he saw the sign, Simon Laplante came over, and that's how we met. And we just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary, and so I guess we're a real testament to Pierre Elliott Trudeau's bilingualism policies.
J'adore. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And congratulations, Angela. You've got 2 huge prize packs. These are amazing. Now, to be specific, this is Angela, our winner, called yesterday. Her husband went to visit her chicken chef she was serving, and he kept ordering one piece of chicken at a time to keep talking to her. Love it. Your Olympic update is coming up next on CBC.
Good morning. I'm Scott Regier with your Olympic Games report. It is day 7 in Milano Cortina, and it stands to be a quieter one than yesterday, where Canada nearly doubled its medal count.
Brad Jacobs trying to conjure up a little bit of magic here.
Is it through? It is.
It is through. Does it touch the red? It does. Little bump for 2. Somebody has brought his A game to Cortina, and his name is Brad Jacobs.
Action already underway on the pebbled ice in Cortina. Canada's Brad Jacobs improved his record to 2-0 by topping the U.S.'s Daniel Casper. And Rachel Homan is trying to take down an American foe of her own right now. She's up against Corey Teese. The sports rivalry between North American neighbors has seldom been more intense than it is right now. U.S. President Donald Trump's rhetoric around Canada becoming a 51st state only added to that intensity. The head of the Canadian Olympic Committee, David Shoemaker, was asked about the not always friendly competition.
The rivalry with the United States is one that's decades and decades old in sport, and yet I think there's a little bit more riding on it, and we'll certainly see that. But we certainly haven't instructed our athletes to behave in a certain way. And what's great about sport is I think that they're going to compete like heck, and then whatever the outcome, shake hands at the end of the day.
Judging by what we saw at hockey's Four Nations face-off last year, there are different ways of shaking hands. It's not just the current geopolitical situation that has anxiety between the countries rising. There are several athletes in Milano Cortina who've switched allegiances. Skeleton's Hallie Clark and figure skating's Diana Stellato-Dudek both used to compete for the U.S. and now wear the maple leaf, while Kaylee Humphries, Canada's most decorated bobsledder ever, now wears the Stars and Stripes. Those are just a few examples. And then there's that promo video Calgary raised pop star Tate McRae did ahead of these games.
I'm trying to get to Milan and meet Team USA. Then it's the weekend with America's best skating for gold.
Let's just say the reaction on social media to that ad was swift and strong. With all that said, the latest Canada-U.S. rivalry playing out at these Olympics is going on right now in women's curling, where Ottawa's Rachel Homan is up 3-2 over American Tabitha Peterson. They are in the sixth end. Well, today is the last of the long-distance speed skating races, and as CBC's Omar Dabagi Pacheco tells us, the 10,000-meter event will have a veteran Canadian in contention.
A grueling race. Skaters I talked to call it the pain train. The lactic acid building up. Expect some grimaces on the faces of those skaters. And holding the hopes for the Canadians is Ted-Jan Blumen, gold medalist in this distance in Pyeongchang. Held the Olympic record back then. I spoke to him earlier. He said, look, I feel fast, I feel powerful, and he says this is the event that he prefers. I asked him why. He said, look, I'm an athlete, I like a good challenge. Watch for some emotion on his face, though, as he goes around that finish lap. His two young children in the stands during this last race of his last Olympics. And the challengers, Norway's Sander Itram, the first man to go under 6 minutes in a 5,000-meter race just a couple weeks ago, broke the Olympic record here in Milan. And then you've got Italy's Davide Ghiotto, a guy that wants to make his mark on this ice. Other top contenders for the medals, Poland, USA, France. But here's the thing about the 10K. Racers don't get to do it often in a season. Pacing is everything, and anything can happen with 25 laps on the ice.
CBC's Omar Dabagi Pacheco from Milano. Well, there's more hockey to look forward to today. Canada's men's team will look to go 2 for 2 to start its tournament when it plays Switzerland this afternoon. That one goes at 12:10 Pacific time. And some encouraging news for the country's women's team as it prepares for a quarterfinal tomorrow against Germany. Star forward Marie-Philippe Poulin was the first one out on the ice today for practice. Captain Clutch, as she's known, has missed the last 2 contests due to a lower body injury. These are expected to be Poulin's final Olympic Games. To date, she's already scored the winning goals in 3 past gold medal matches. Thus, that nickname. Looking at the medal table, it's host Italy leading all nations with 17. After its big day yesterday, Canada has 7, which, if you're wondering, is only half the number the U.S. has won. That is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regehr.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Riley Lechuk in Winnipeg at 8:30. Minus 14 at the airport. Downtown minus 7 at the moment. We have a fog advisory in place for Brandon and Westman as well. We're looking at a mainly sunny afternoon today across southern Manitoba. Our high in Winnipeg minus 1. A Winnipeg family is calling for better patient safety after their 94-year-old mother was attacked in her hospital bed by another patient. Tony Capizzi says his mother was admitted to the hospital on January 9th and placed in a shared room with a man. Capizzi says he received a disturbing call from hospital staff the next day.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but I've never seen anything like this. But your mother was assaulted. The patient next to her, it was a man, found out it was a man, tried to suffocate her with a towel. You know, a nurse heard her screaming and went in there and stopped the incident.
Winnipeg police charged a 49-year-old man with assault in relation to the incident. The WRHA says hospital management has been in contact with the family to offer support. Well, there were intense exchanges yesterday at the inquiry into the Winnipeg police headquarters between the former mayor and the city's lawyer. Sam Cates spent the day testifying. City lawyer Michael Finlayson honed in on a 2011 personal real estate transaction between former CAO Phil Schiegel's company and Cates. The city doesn't believe the purported Arizona land deal was real. Schiegel and Cates claim they split a check from Caspian construction owner Armik Babakanians. They say he bought their interest in an acre of land for $327,000. Finlayson questioned Cates about the math. Cates says Schiegel handled the deal.
Did you ask him why it's only 100 and not 160 and change?
No.
Why not? I'm sorry? A shrug can't, the record doesn't
I haven't
show a
said
shrug.
anything yet. Because it wasn't an issue to me at the time.
In 2022, a court ruled Schiegel accepted a bribe for $327,000 from Caspian Construction and ordered him to pay the city compensation. Manitoba is getting 6 new liaison workers tasked with supporting families at risk of losing their children to CFS. The positions are being created by the provincial government in partnership with United Way Winnipeg. It is part of a shift in care aimed at helping families keep custody of their children. Manitoba's Foster Parent Association President Jamie Fow says liaisons can help families mitigate risk factors and keep children out of the foster care system.
We see the results when children are apprehended. They are way less likely to graduate high school, more likely to become pregnant at an earlier age, more likely to be charged with a crime, more likely to be homeless.
The province says liaisons have also helped about 100 families in Manitoba regain custody of their children since 2021. Prime Minister Mark Carney is visiting Tumbler Ridge, BC today. The Prime Minister will attend a vigil in the community 3 days after 9 people died in one of the worst mass shootings in modern Canadian history. Carney has invited all federal party leaders to join him, and they have all accepted the invitation. This follows the RCMP releasing the victims' identities. The children killed range in age from 11 to 13. The other victims include the shooter's mother and an education assistant. As well, a 19-year-old woman and a 12-year-old girl are recovering from serious injuries. The girl is being treated at BC's Children's Hospital in Vancouver. Opponents of a proposed bylaw restricting protests say if passed, it would effectively outlaw demonstrations in a wide area of the city. The bylaw would restrict so-called nuisance protests within 100 meters of schools, cultural centers, and other designated sites. Community groups who met last night at West End Commons argue the bylaw is too broad. Councillor Evan Duncan brought the proposed bylaw forward. He says it is aimed at preventing intimidation.
I'd like to know what exactly type of protest these folks plan on participating in that causes intimidation at one of those protests, because that sounds like what the opposition would be, that they like to intimidate people, and that's their goal here, is that don't take away my right to intimidate.
The bylaw will be debated at the Executive Policy Committee meeting coming up next Tuesday. And the Canadian Climate Institute says Canada is on its way to missing a key climate change commitment. In a report released today, the Institute says the long-term goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2050 may be out of reach. It says there are a number of contributing factors, including Alberta and Saskatchewan, both weakening their industrial carbon policies. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. More news coming up at 9.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about Radio Noon. They're calling today ahead of Valentine's Day, dating stories, the good and the bad. Some of the bad ones can be funny, right? In hindsight, maybe only. But you can call in between 12:30 and 1. Let's say thank you to everybody who worked on the show this week and works in our unit. Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, May McKillop, Marshall Hodgins, Jenica Sewell, Dylan Longhurst, Chloe Friesen, Sophia Peralta Barone. They are our associate producers. Our CA reporter in unit, Jim Agapito, with work this week. Hosts in unit, Nadia Kidwai, Faith Fundal, and Bruce Layden. From our news department, Joni Nicolo, Aaron Broman, Megan Ketchison, Heather Wells, and Riley Lechuk. Videographer Travis Goulby, YouTube producer Darren Marash, and our producers Nellie Gonzalez and CA overall for the shows, and Leif Larson, the senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. Corey Funk, what do you have to say?
Westbound South Perimeter at St. Anne's may still be a stalled car right in the intersection, so look out for that. Those issues northbound Pembina and Bison and southbound Henderson and Winterton are all now clear.
Abby?
Yeah, we're looking at the bright and mild end of the week in the southern parts of the province. The sunshine dominates, while up north we're still seeing those lingering clouds bringing light snow and bitter wind chills towards the Churchill region. The Winnipeg region and the southern region, most areas will get to 3 degrees today. Winnipeg, we get to -1, while up north, colder, -9 to -22, and highs between -2 and -14. But Winnipeg, we're hovering between -6 and -11 now.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Corey's going to take one for the team on Monday and work.
Woot woot.
I will be off. Faith Fundel, thanks to you as well, because you're going to be in hosting the show here. So make sure you join Corey, Faith, and the rest of the crew for another edition of Information Radio. And thanks for listening this morning here on CBC. Have a great weekend, and if you get a long one, enjoy it too. I'm Marcy Marcusa. The Current is next on 89.3.